So hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Focal Talk podcast. This is a special bumper edition. We have lots for you today. We had our original 2 guests. They were George Armstrong and Thomas Carey. But we have decided, just in light of current events and the fact that you're all going to be working from home, to give you a little bit more to chew on this month. So we're going to have a wide-ranging discussion on the COVID virus and the effects on the community. And we'll be speaking to a couple of interesting guests. I think you'll find them very interesting. So there's plenty for you to chew on, Callum. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we already had what I think was going to be a very good episode lined up with George, who was going to be the host of the next 2 events in York and London. And obviously Tom Carey, who's a full-on bona fide countdown legend. Mm-hmm. Obviously the nature of our conversation with George changed significantly based on what's been going on, because it has unfortunately caused his events to have to be postponed. But there's a bit of something for everyone in this. So if you do want to hear about the current event stuff, then you've got at the start of the episode with George, and towards the end when we have our special guests on, we've got the topical chat. But if you don't want to hear that, you're sick of the coronavirus stuff, it's getting you down, you've come here for your countdown chat and nothing else, then you can listen from about midway through George's interview all the way up to the end of Tom's interview, and it's a good full podcast episode's worth of normal countdown chat with not a nasty virus in sight. Yeah,
it's a COVID-free zone, isn't it? We should add now. It's a little bit not safe for work. Perhaps some of the language is maybe quite emotive. So just to be careful where you're listening.
Yeah, we were doing well on that front until we got Tom on, and anyone who knows Tom knows he's a bit of a potty mouth, but
that's his vernacular, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
So
if it was 1 or 2, maybe we would have beeped them, but I think we'd have run out of beeps.
We would have run out of beeps.
Panic bought all the beeps.
Beep shortages, yeah.
Yeah.
But I like a man who can swear well. So I mean, it's good swearing. It's good quality swearing. So don't think
he's good at it for sure.
Yeah, it's run of the mill stuff. So just to look out for that in case you're underage.
Yeah, so it's possibly not safe for work. Whether or not it's not safe for work from home, I don't know. That's up to your discretion.
Or if you're Ashton Hancock, it's not safe. You're too young for such language.
yeah, maybe. Let's say it's a PG-13, this episode. Right, so on that unfortunate topic, we're joined today by George Armstrong, who was going to be the host of 2 of the upcoming co-events in York and London. Unfortunately, those events look very unlikely to go ahead now. But George, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Callum.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul.
So, George, obviously you were meant to be hosting an event in York on the 18th of April. That would be a repeat run of last year's event, which was very successful.
Thank
you were also going to be co-hosting a London event in May with Fiona, which at the time of recording, I believe, is still provisional, but it obviously, realistically speaking, it looks unlikely to go ahead.
I will update you there, Callum. We did change yesterday. It has now been cancelled. Mm-hmm. So as of this recording, there's no York and there's no London.
Yeah, that's the news we were expecting, unfortunately. So can you just tell us a bit about what it's been like for you, George, as someone who's put a lot of time in over the past 6 months to a year or so preparing these 2 events, and then so close to the date, obviously, to have this crisis occur and the events now have to be called off. What's the experience been like for you?
Well, it's a bit of a gut punch because you do put a lot of work in behind the scenes. Like with York, I've got all my conundrums done, got all my printing done. I'd bought my prizes, I'd bought me winners' memorabilia, and a lot of that's going to go to waste, but who cares? Because it's not the most important thing in the world right now.
No, it's not. No.
Yeah, that's a good
true.
point. I think obviously to us this it's sort of relevant to the world we're in, and obviously what this podcast is about. But we have to remember not to feel too sorry for ourselves, because in the grand scheme of things, a few word game events being cancelled isn't the biggest tragedy of all this. But yeah, I think it just shows how this current global situation has affected all walks of life, big and small, really. It's not just the health problems and the financial problems, it's even little things like hobbies and socialising have been affected for so many people, and our events having to be cancelled is an example of that. I can't remember the last time, if it's even ever happened, that a co-event has had to be cancelled due to a global situation such as this. So
we're living in unprecedented
sometimes
times, really, aren't we?
Yeah, truly. So, George, just tell us a bit about what you were planning then for York and London, because obviously, hopefully, they'll be able to be rescheduled at some point, and I'm sure you put a lot of work into them. So, what was going to happen before this all happened?
So, first up with York, we'd got a new venue and everything. We'd done a lot of work into it, and we were going to make sure it was better than last year, iron out all the mistakes, like that conundrum at the end.
Conundrum.
Which I'm sure everyone's seen, and if not, it's on YouTube somewhere.
I haven't. Remind our listeners.
Well, it was our very own Callum in the final against Ireland's Eddie Byrne.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Tim, I'm not blaming Tim, although he has accepted the blame for this.
Don't you dare blame Tim down, George. Don't you dare.
Hey, I'm not blaming him. He accepted the blame himself. Ultimately, it's my fault, but anyway.
I don't think it's anyone's fault. It was just unfortunate, but go on, tell us what happened.
Tim was giving a 5-second countdown in every round at the end of each round, and on the conundrum, he forgot to give the 5-second warning. So then when he says time, Eddie buzzed in just after him with the correct answer, which would have won the game. I think the general consensus was to just do a new conundrum, which Callum then got after a few seconds.
People were unsure on what to do, and I think Monty wanted us to do another conundrum, so we did what Monty asked. Yeah.
His first
for those
words.
who don't know, Monty is Dinos's baby son.
That's what I was thinking. He's the only other Monty I knew. Yeah. I was thinking he's not old enough.
Yeah, we didn't just take the opinion of one random guy in the room. It was
Yeah. I'm assuming Eddie was rather miffed about this then.
Yeah, understandable.
Eddie's strategy being to wait until the final few seconds, to wait for that visual cue that there's 5 seconds left, and to get in there get in there on 28, 29 seconds.
Certainly feels that way. I mean, I was in, I think I was in 5 co-event finals last year, and 4 of them had controversial conundrums. So, I think it's me.
You get over it.
What were the other ones then?
That's the way the cookie crumbles at times.
Well, the conundrum at Edinburgh, it turned out only this week or this month anyway. It's turned out that the word should never have actually been in the Apteros dictionary, because it's not actually a word. It's a US word. It's actually 2 words, which is non-linear.
Oh, non-linear, which is gone now. Yeah, that's completely gone. Yeah.
So those have been removed from Apteros, but they had been on for a while. But they should never have been put in the first place. It's not a change that's happened to the dictionary that's made them now invalid. Like they never were valid.
Mm-hmm.
They were, so it was erroneous inclusion in the dictionary. So that was never actually a word.
Also, was that your first or second conundrum that day? Because I know you had 2.
That was the first of 2. So obviously the second conundrum was fine, but if not for non-linear, then there might not have been a second conundrum. Then obviously there was York, which happened as it did.
Let's move on.
Dublin, the conundrum had 2 answers.
Which were? Do you remember that?
I don't remember, but there were 2 valid answers.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I'm starting to remember now. Yeah,
it'll come to you. It'll come back to you.
If I remember it. Liverpool, as far as I know, was fine. And then at Braintree, the conundrum just simply wasn't a word. It was outshined, which isn't a word. It's outshone. Is the past tense of outshine.
Conundrum composition is a dark art, then, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so I think I'm just sort of a lightning rod for conundrum controversy. So don't blame Tim, don't blame yourself, George. Just blame me. But yeah, so you were trying to avoid any repeat of the controversy this year at York.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to host the final. I'll let someone else do that just in case.
Yeah, and we'd all make sure we gave very clear time warnings to the finalists. So last year at York, it was your event. You were solo hosting it, but you did have a few helpers, didn't you, behind the scenes? Do you want to give a shout out to them?
I did. Fred James helped me on the day, helped me to make the food as well, which was a big help. Also, Ben Mills, thank you for making me several cups of juice throughout the day.
Millsy, shout out to Millsy.
Yeah, Ben was great. He made me a few cups of tea. I think he's a good lad.
We'll have to get Ben on the show. I want to hear some more of his rap. Ben could be a future guest on the show. I think once he has his first top 10.
And I'll have loads of juicy gossip about Tracy as well, which I'm sure we're all dying to hear.
We'll get the whole Mills clan on.
Yeah,
that's what we'll do.
We could do Keeping Up with the Millses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are they, like the Kardashians or the Osbournes? Which more?
Yeah, I was thinking the Osbournes actually, but yeah, that's the name of the Kardashian show, isn't it? Yeah, I think they're definitely more Osbournes.
Sorry,
I'm not saying Mark Mills. Mark Mills is
Tracy.
Yeah, they're definitely more the Osbournes, I think. But
so a lot of work goes into these events. Yeah, it's there's a lot of people. It's a tight community. I mean, I'm only in my first year of this, but it's, you know, the more I get into it, the more I realise the work that goes sort of, you know, unappreciated in a way. People take it for granted. Oh, there's an event coming, that's great. All I have to do is turn up and pay my money. But it's the work that goes in behind the scenes is, you know, is commendable.
And all pro bono, might I add.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no incentive other than the appreciation of your peers, which is good and which does happen. You know, we're a very appreciative community. I think we, especially in these times, we appreciate the effort that people go into to keep the community going and to keep it interesting and keep it fresh and keep people coming back.
Yeah, because it's a bit of an uncertain time for co-events now, because obviously we've no idea when we'll be able to resume. So the next ones on the calendar that haven't been cancelled yet are Peterborough and Edinburgh in June, but
looking unlikely.
You know,
when you look at the global picture, it looks unlikely, and we'll speak to guests later on who might be able to give us a little bit more information on that. But nobody the world over at the moment is making plans. No one is booking a summer holiday or.
Yeah, I think any short-term plans are very insecure.
They are completely out the window. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I cancelled my plans today to stay at home and listen to this lovely conversation.
Well, you're part of this lovely conversation, George. So you're a key player.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's how we diversify. I think. I mean, the life has to go on. We're still going to have our interests. Yes, we're stuck in the house and we can't call around to our mate's house and have a few cans like we used to. But we can work with the technology that we have, and it's good that we have this technology. This was, if this happened in the 90s, we wouldn't be able to be doing this now.
Yeah, I know. With my group of friends, we normally go to the pub on a Friday night. We did a virtual pub this Friday, just gone. We all got on the voice call, and it was fun. Obviously, it wasn't the same, obviously, but it was fun, and it shows you don't have to abandon all your socialising and hobbies. We are fortunate, like you say, Paul, to have the technology available these days that can be really come into its own in these
It
times.
also needs the will as well. I mean, you have to have the will of the people to want to get online and to sort of make the best of a bad situation. I mean, my wife, if she sent round an invitation to one of our WhatsApp groups to do something similar, which was to download the House Party app. And I think basically everyone can select the music, so you'll all hear the same music on your systems, but you're all sharing it. So we're all listening to Donna Summer, or we're all listening to whatever, Daniel O'Donnell, whatever your cup of tea is. But it keeps that social aspect going, and pretend that life goes on.
In terms of events, we might have to do a few co-events on Apterus or something.
I think so. I definitely think so. Yeah.
Yeah, like we've done Co-Apto before. I'd like to try a Co-Discord where I could present it like, events like Newcastle and Huddersfield have been presented before, and purely so it's not online play. It really is more like a co-event
and a disco afterwards as well.
We'll look
bit of a disco to finish off.
We'll look into that. Yeah. Well, that puts the disco in,
doesn't
Discord.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just
we'll see. Obviously, I think we're in this for the long haul, so it's something to keep an eye out for over the coming months.
I was planning on hosting a Co-Aptress in place of Co-York on Saturday the 18th.
Yeah.
That is if I'm not working, and I'll find out a couple of weeks beforehand, probably.
That's Friday the 18th of
Saturday
April.
the 18th.
Saturday the 18th of April. Okay, so save the date,
Yes,
guys.
Yeah.
George will figure it out somehow.
But don't fully save the date yet.
It's just provisionally save the date. What else are you doing? People don't have any plans right now, George. That's the...
Well, I might be at work.
The calendar is... we'll see.
Because for now, I'm one of the lucky ones who's a key worker.
Yeah. Oh, you are a key worker, so yeah. Mm.
Yes.
That does make the difference, yeah. Well, just make sure that you protect yourself, that you're using your hand sanitizer, that you're washing your hands after every interaction. If you leave the house, wash the hands. You come back to the house, wash the hands. It's a funny one. We're people have been self-isolating here for 10 days now, at least. It was pre Paddy's Day for us, which spoke volumes in itself. When the Irish are saying no, we're going to close the pubs ahead of Paddy's Day, that it's something to be taken seriously. So I think we're in this for the long haul, and I think we have to diversify, and we have to find new ways to do our old things, or to invent completely new ways of doing them. And I think that can be a good thing. I think if we feel sorry for ourselves and go, oh no, my social life's cancelled, and what am I going to do? I'm not going to have any fun. Well, you probably won't. If you try and get around these barriers, you can. The technology does exist.
Absolutely.
Don't be a social hermit. Get online and speak to your friends and speak to your family and stay in touch.
Yeah, which it might take some time for a lot of people to prepare themselves for that, because it really has sort of sprung up on us. I know, obviously, we've heard news of coronavirus since December last year, really, but I don't think anyone was truly anticipating just how serious it was going to be to the whole world. So soon as well. I think it was about 3 weeks ago from this day that we're recording, Paul, that we were speaking to Innes for the last episode.
Seems a world away.
Talking about the upcoming Newcastle event, which would have been this weekend if this podcast is to be released within the next few days. It seems like a different world away, doesn't it? Yeah. And it wasn't even on our minds that this event might be threatened by coronavirus. Within the space of 3 weeks, not only has that event been cancelled, but the next two events have been cancelled, and the events after that look dubious, and many of us are, effectively homebound.
And I personally think that we're all going to be homebound as long as it takes the last country to start it. Basically, that's what's going to happen. We all need to be on lockdown, and if anyone's not on lockdown, they're only delaying those that are already. They're only giving them a longer sentence. So the quicker we all shut down, the quicker we can get out of this mess, I think.
That's the thing with the sort of globalistic societies we have nowadays. We all have to work in harmony on this, or the efforts of others are sort of undermined by those that don't keep up. But yeah, we'll get through this as as a community. I'm sure.
Yeah, we will, but we can see the pipeline. I mean, in Ireland, we've been a few days ahead of you in the UK in terms of decisions. Maybe we felt we were at a more progressed stage earlier, but you can kind of see what's coming down. You look down the line you look at Italy, and you see the massive number of deaths that they have at the moment, and it's very, very, very sad. But they're talking about complete lockdown, absolute complete lockdown. So in Ireland, we know that that's coming probably by the middle of the week. There is the net will just be tightening and tightening and tightening until everyone's just sitting in their homes, waiting this thing out.
Yeah, obviously in some countries are technically in lockdown, but that's not as dramatic as it sounds. Like Belgium is in lockdown. Mm-hmm. But you're allowed to go out to buy books. So
okay.
That's classed as an essential trip to make.
Yeah, you're allowed to get out for exercise and things like that. But in Italy, they're restricting them now to jogging around their own block, so not to go jogging around the town, just to jog around your own apartment block. Yeah. So keep it local.
I mean, Italy is quite an exceptional case. I know everyone's sort of looking at Italy and saying how many weeks are other countries behind Italy. And it's reasonable to think that way because you have to be prepared for the worst case scenario. But there are a number of factors involved with Italy that really aren't in play with other countries. So, I don't want to tell anyone to be sort of blasé about this because it's obviously a very serious threat, and we all have our role to play in counteracting it. But don't get too scared when looking at Italy and thinking that's going to come here, because it really shouldn't. Because there are a number of factors to do with Italy and their population and their health service and the way the virus was first acknowledged and picked up on that.
Of course,
we're ahead of them on that. So.
No, of course. I think there's two things to guard against. You want to guard against, getting too caught up a bit and getting too anxious. But at the same time, you want to guard against complacency as well. We're all in this for the long haul. Our ancestors were sent to war to fight. We're being asked to sit on our bums and wash our hands. And when you think about it, it's not a big ask.
No, and it's being described as the greatest global threat and global disruption in peacetime, and of course it is that. And it is in some ways comparable to peacetime, but that's not to comparable to
wartime. Yeah,
that's not to say that it is as bad as
not
that.
At all.
No. No one's being sent off into the trenches.
No, but it's a communal effort. The women had to work in artillery factories and things like that, and everyone pulled together to do their jobs. And I think that's what we're all being asked to do, is to don't be selfish, don't be thinking about your events coming up. Your events are probably going to be cancelled. I think once you get your head around that idea, then you can kind of be comfortable in this lockdown. You can kind of go, it's just what's happening. Yeah. It's like Christmas. Pretend it's snowing outside and you're snowed in. As long as you've got your provisions in and your friends and family around you, that's all you need.
Yeah.
And don't get too anxious about it.
Okay, so George, you were obviously we've discussed York. You were also going to host the next event after York in London with Fiona. You were taking that over from Jen, who'd done it for the previous 3 years. It's the biggest event in the calendar in terms of attendance. So obviously that's going to be missed. Hopefully it can be rescheduled at a later date. But can you tell us a bit more about the preparations for that event and what it was like stepping into such big shoes for such a big and beloved event?
I still don't know how I stepped into these shoes, because last year it was hosted by Jen, as you said.
You're a northerner doing London. They let a northerner do London.
We're taking over the world, Paul. We're taking over the world.
Just that mistrust. I'm surprised it wasn't there. They let a Yorkshireman do London. I was giving you the chance to defend Yorkshire there. I was leaving you an open goal.
Yorkshire
to come in.
Just wait till we get Tom on later on. It's going to be Yorkshire everywhere.
It's going to be a York fest.
Paul's going to be on his own.
I can pretend. Yeah.
So go on, George. What was that like then, stepping into those shoes?
As I was saying, Jen hosted last year with help from our chair, Jeff. And afterwards, a few of us went to the pub, and I had time for a couple of drinks before my train back up. And I was sat with Jeff. I think I remember it was a £10 just for the 2 drinks for us, which is criminal. But that's not the point here.
That's cheap in London.
That's quite
for
cheap.
2 drinks.
Yeah,
For 2 drinks,
it's nearly
£10.
Yeah, I've seen people charge £10 for 1 drink in London.
See, this is what I mean. They
Oh,
let a
good
Yorkshireman
God.
then go,
Buy one,
oh,
get one
it's,
free offer.
it's bloody dear. What's going on? I'm not
Yeah.
doing this again.
How bloody much?
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're having drinks with Jeff, reasonably cheap drinks by London standards.
you disagree.
And I said, the original plan was for Jeff to take over hosting London, and I said to him, well, if no one, comes forward to help you out, I'll help you out on the day, just bits and bats like he did last year with Jen. Fast forward a couple of months to, I think, West Yorkshire, went up to Jeff, and I said, oh, what's the latest with London? Because we were talking about a few events. And he said to me, I thought it was us 2 doing it. I said, oh, okay, it's us 2 then. Fast forward a couple more months, and he says, George, there's a bit of a problem here. My wife wants me to take a 2-week holiday in May, which was when we scheduled London for. And so I said to him, well, Fiona messaged me saying, oh, I'm happy to help out with anything you need. Why not see if she'll come on board? So I message her, and 5 minutes later, yeah, Jeff, we don't need you anymore.
You dead to me.
So there's a lot of baton passing going on.
Yeah. No, it's fine. You have your holiday. You swan off. That's fine. Is how you put it? Yeah, you go off. Enjoy yourself. We'll cover your ass.
We'll take over. But in all seriousness,
he misses out though. He would have missed out on the event. So
on all the Eurovision fun. Actually, I think he was actually
It was
coming.
Eurovision Day, wasn't it?
I think in the
it was
end
meant to be on Eurovision, right? Okay.
Which then got cancelled, and then we cancelled later in the week.
Yeah.
Not because Eurovision cancelled,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That would have been a good day. That would have been a good day as well. Just having the event and then to finish it up with the Eurovision would have been a nice night.
Can I just say I don't like Eurovision?
Yeah, but a lot of people do, and it only really gets going around 8 o'clock at night anyway. So the event would be nicely over. People would have had maybe a few drinks and that kind of thing. So I mean, these things could maybe still happen, George, online. I do see that there's a bit of a will. Maybe that's a Eurovision online party for that one.
Well, we'll have to see. I might leave that up to Fiona.
I'd say Fiona would. This is Fiona Titcombe, listeners, who was Series 80 semi-finalist. Was she semi-finalist?
He's quarter-finalist. I think she lost to Maggie. Lost to Maggie
She
in the
lost to
quarters, then
Maggie.
Maggie lost to Elliot, and then
Wow, no shame.
well, we all know what happened in the final.
So a big shout out to
Final
Fiona.
which
Fiona
we
hasn't
cannot
had a shout out on the podcast yet, so she's getting plenty of shout outs today.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's criminal. How we should not have overlooked this far.
And her image
So
will be used.
Hopefully,
Her image will be used for the podcast, not her face now. Her knitting.
pom poms.
Yeah, her knitting.
Yeah.
Her knitting.
Well,
Oh,
Her
yes,
knitting,
I
yes.
saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that, yes.
yes. Yeah, you'll be able to see that on the thumbnail for the podcast.
A nice non-threatening representation of a deadly virus,
Yes. Yeah, we have
if
to-
that's possible.
Yeah. Put a little bit of silver lining on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully yourself and Fiona will be able to present London at a rescheduled date. Obviously, it's far too soon to start planning those things at the moment because we've no idea what sort of timescale we're working on. But yeah, when it does clear up and we can look at rescheduling events, we'll maybe have you back on, George, to tell us about York and London should they be able to occur at another time.
George, can I ask you about your countdown history? What's your earliest?
Let's talk about something happier.
What's your earliest memory of countdown?
I think probably during school holidays when I was about maybe 9, 10, 11.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd watch it. If I'm not doing anything, I'd stick it on and I'd get, a few words, not much. But I enjoyed the show. And I didn't really watch it too often. until I got to about the age of, say, 16.
Mm-hmm.
When I'd watch it whenever I wasn't at school. So every school holiday, I wouldn't go online and catch up on all the episodes. I wasn't too interested.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, I got to the age of 18, and I left school, and I was at home all day, and I thought, well, I might as well watch it. I'm not doing anything else. And then I sort of got a bit addicted.
Mm.
At the time, I was unemployed, and I'd been speaking to, who some people may know, a guy called Joseph Kroll, who I went to school with briefly. I know you're familiar with him, Callum.
Joseph has a big connection. Yeah, well, he has a big connection to Tom Carey, who we'll be speaking to later in this episode. So there's a underlying connection between you all there.
Well, he got Tom into Countdown, and he got me into Countdown properly. He's the one who introduced me
scout.
Yeah, he introduced me to Rapturus.
He's a talent scout then, a Countdown talent scout. I'd love that job. I'd be good at that. I could tell if someone was good at Countdown or not.
Yeah. I mean, that's
stopping
what
them in the
searchers
street. Stopping them in the street like the model scouts. Hi, hey, I just knew by the look of you that you'd be really good at Countdown.
So he got me into Rapturus, and he'd been filming for University Challenge. And I said, oh, I'd love to go on, something like Countdown. He said, oh my god, you should. It's so much fun recording. You get to do this and that and all these bits. And I thought, I'm going to do it. And there was just one loophole, is that I was unemployed. And normally, you get introduced and you're Stephen, and you're an accountant or a teacher or whatever job you have, or you're a student, or you're a homemaker. You have a title, and I didn't have that at the time. And I'd filled the entire application form out, and it was just sitting there until I managed to find myself a job. And I managed to find myself two jobs on one day, which were across the road from each other, one in a butcher's shop and one in a newsagent's. And I was offered them both, and the hours didn't clash. So in one day, I went from 0 to 2.
Oh, nice.
And this was Good Friday 2017.
Very Good Friday.
And that's important. A very Good Friday, and that's important. I'll come back to that later on. And so I did my first full shift on the Saturday afterwards. I got home at 2 o'clock, and I just filled out the rest of the application form, bam, sent it off. So I knew that this was just a thing I wanted to do, get it ticked off this bucket list, which is now relatively empty. There's nothing really I want to do in it.
Already?
You're a very young man to have a bucket list, George. You're very
young. Pop up. Things will pop up that I want to do with my life. That was one thing. Anyway, so a few months later, I get the call from the studios. Then coming towards Christmas, we go down, and it was the final shoot day of the year. Managed to get 2 wins for myself. Although while we were down there, a bit of disaster struck, as my dad lost his wallet up in the stands of the audience.
Ooh.
And he was a bit of an idiot.
Among that crowd? Oh, you'd never get it back. You'd never get it back. Oh. It's gone.
Well, he was a bit of an idiot because he thought, well, we're going down to Manchester for the day. Who knows, if we're going to need any money. So he put 300 quid in his wallet. £300.
Mm-hmm.
Which he then lost.
To the Countdown Studios.
A nice wad.
And he thought, well, I'm never getting this money back, or this wallet. And so he was a bit bummed out.
Mm-hmm.
Went back down nearly 6 weeks later, in January, to continue filming. I think we all know now, the illusion that it's filmed live on the day has been broken by Rachel being pregnant. I think we're allowed.
Yes,
I think we're allowed to say now.
Previously on this podcast, it's the cat's out of the bag. I think we all know it's a pre-recorded show.
We'll cut all that out. Obviously, we're gonna preserve the magic of TV and cut all that out. But yes, no.
Yeah, for all the dullards watching it and listening at home.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But it was nice to be normally somebody on the show's champion for a few days, whereas in reality it's champion for a few hours. But I was the champion for like 6 weeks over Christmas.
Get in there.
I don't
All
think
over
anyone's
Christmas,
got
all
that
over
champion.
all over Jesus' birthday. You were countdown champion. There you go. And into the new year. So for 2 years running, George, you were champion.
Yeah, Christmas champion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you ended up on 4 wins.
4
I think,
wins,
George?
yes. 4 wins.
Yep.
We went back down
Very,
in
very good
January.
run.
We'd had a bit of a family bereavement the day before, so my mind wasn't on it. And I lost me 5th game by 3 points.
Oh.
And then we went home. And I never knew until a few months later what happened. Like, if I'd have won that game, because I missed the word releasing, despite having the word leasing written down.
Oh dear.
Yeah. I didn't go for leasing in the end. Thankfully, I went for something else. I went for lingers. Yeah. I didn't want to look too stupid. I didn't know if I'd have won the next game or the game after that. I didn't know how anything panned out. I didn't know what I could have done. Comes around to about a month before they aired, my dad got a phone call from a post office on the other side of Bradford saying, "We've got something belonging to you. Can you come and collect it, please?" And somehow, we don't know where it turned up, because we looked throughout all the stands, we looked through all the green room and everything, couldn't find that wallet. And it turns up at a post office in Bradford 3 months later with all the money still in it.
Wow.
Oh, that's excellent.
Well,
And it was
There are some good people in the world.
Was there a note attached? Was there any
no, not
forensics
at all.
to figure out who it was from, or no clue?
No, I did email the researcher back afterwards saying, "Oh, it's turned up, thank you." And he said,
Well,
"Look,
if you're-
it wasn't me."
If you're listening now and you are that kind, good Samaritan, well, thank you. I think the Countdown community owes you a debt.
Yeah, of about £300.
About £300. You could have had a great weekend.
Yeah.
Limousines,
Yeah,
and
that's very nice.
pizzas, and fur coats and crowns.
So, were you, when you recorded Countdown, George, was this before or after Aptris for you?
It was just a little bit afterwards. I joined up
Right, so you were
a
a
little
very
bit
new
to
Apter at the
practice. I was quite new at the time. I
Quite
think
the same as me then, about a month or so. Yeah.
I think my account was April. I think 2017 it started, or maybe 2018. I might have still been in my free trial when I was on. I can't remember now, but I was relatively new to the site. And I was okay. I wasn't great. I was nowhere near the level I'm at now, which is nowhere near the levels other people are at. Maybe one
So
day.
how many years ago was that, George, you were on?
It was coming up to 2 years this Easter.
Yeah.
Coming up to 2 years.
2 years since broadcast day,
Yes.
so if you filmed before and after Christmas, it will have been just 2.25 years, I suppose.
Yeah, so we've had over
Yeah,
2 years
since
since the filming, just under 2 years since the broadcast.
Yeah.
Which, as I mentioned earlier, as I said earlier, I got those jobs and such on Good Friday 2017,
Yes.
and then my first episode aired on Good Friday 2018.
Oh.
So what a way to round off that little
nice.
sort of circle.
Yeah.
The big man's looking after you, George. Yeah. And I am assuming that you have plans to go back on someday. Would you
I
like another
did
go?
originally. Like I said, I didn't know whether I could have won any more games. I didn't know how I was going to do, and for a few months I was a bit bitter. I'm not ashamed to say. And then I watched my games, I saw my loss, and I saw the next game, and the man who beat me, Luke, got quite well beaten by Dougie McKay, who was a series finalist that year.
Yeah.
And I found out at the time, like, I would not have beaten Dougie on that day. There's no way I'd have beaten Dougie. But I might
That
have
puts
done
the
enough
mind at
to
ease, doesn't it? Yeah.
It did. It really relaxed me, and
Yeah.
all that
It's just
bitterness.
when
went
I
out.
had my
It's all
I
now
had my
sweet.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. But I might have got enough points
Yeah.
to make the finals as the number 8 seed and set up a thrashing by Zate Sempre. I'm very glad that didn't
speaking
happen.
of Zate, George, you never know what could happen in a few years. Zate, when he was first on, bowed out with 5 wins. I'm sure he was thinking of what could have been.
Mm-hmm.
But, a few years later, he was back, and he achieved probably more than he ever would have done the first time round. And certainly for you were good enough then. I mean, I know you got a century in one of your games, but you're certainly much improved since. And I think you've still got plenty more potential to continue improving before you might get another chance. So, remember the name, guys.
Well,
George
I'll just say this now. I'm not planning on
champion.
it at the minute. I'm not
It's a
planning
bit
on it
soon.
at the
Yeah, it's a
minute.
bit soon. Yeah, it's a little soon as well.
No.
But we have to be patient in these affairs.
Yeah.
Let's give it
you just
the
need to hurry
full
up, George,
recommended
'cause Paul's
10
behind you in
years.
the queue.
I am
so
behind him in the queue, but I might get on first.
We might get on at the same time.
Oh, yeah,
Nice.
that would be a series final for the ages.
I'll be blocking you that week,
But while
George.
you're both on, guys, perhaps you guys are too modest to bring it up, but I believe this month you've both hit a milestone on Aptrus.
We did. Actually, I think mine was
yes.
last month, but that's not the point.
Max Club.
Okay.
We're both in the Max Club.
As Tracy Mills would say, welcome to the Max Club. Yeah.
Yep, you've both been officially invited in by Tracy to the Aptrus Max Club. Well done, guys.
Thank you very much.
For any non-Aptorites listening who are confused by the jargon, they've both played an Aptrus and they've got their first ever Max game, so a 15-rounder game in which they get the maximum possible score in every round. It's quite an elusive achievement.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's funny how this game sort of, you go in, peaks and troughs. You have sort of 2 steps forward and then 1 step back. You get to certain plateaus, and then you jump forward a bit. I found after Lincoln, I don't know, maybe it was just the gameplay. I don't play humans very often, and I think I did quite well. I got 4 wins at Lincoln. Slightly, I mean, I had a favourable draw for being a debutant, but it helped my confidence. And I felt since coming back from then, I got my first 900 Mokto, and I got my first 9-round max, and then I got a max on watching the show. I'd never had a max from watching on from my couch before. So that was before the 9, and then I got a 9, and then I got the 15. So it's just, but then this week I feel like I'm playing like a muppet. So it's that 2 steps forward, 1 step back that you have to just keep plugging away with, don't you? Going, yes, there is forward momentum. It's stuttery, but it's there.
Can I just mention my Max game again?
Sure.
Yes.
I did feel especially proud of that one. I did feel especially proud because not only did I max the game for the first time, but I did it for Yorkshire. Because
you did
it was part of
another
Fiona's
Fiona here.
Little mention for Fiona again, her Regions tourney where everyone who signed up declared where they were from, and you fought for bragging rights for your county or area. And Yorkshire got to the final with the Northwest. And I believe you, Callum, as well maxed a game in there in the finals.
Yeah, I got my personal best with a max game. I think it was 167 or something silly.
Nice score.
Loads of 9s available.
I think as well, isn't that the personal best max game ever?
It's the highest max game ever, yeah.
Yeah, it's the highest max game.
Someone scored
the highest
170
score
before.
Yeah, it's not the highest ever
scored
score.
170 before.
And it wasn't a max?
Yeah,
no, it
I think
wasn't.
it's the joint 3rd highest score ever. So the other 3 games that have scored that much or higher, all of them weren't max games.
They were
obviously
14s, yeah.
13 or 14 maxes. I think Elliot got a 167 when you can get 168. Jack got 170 when 171 or 172 was available. But of all the max games, it's the highest scoring one. Yeah, that was for Yorkshire as well.
Well, congratulations. We've just lost a load of Lancastrians, but hopefully they'll come back now when we get Mouse on.
Yeah.
But,
we shall see.
We'll see. As the Yorkshire.
Mouse is going to come on and say Yorkshire immediately, and they're all going to go again.
Yeah, that's his way.
Yeah.
So George, we've been over your time on Countdown, your time in hosting events, and your Aptrus achievements. The other side of the community you're very involved in, and it's another thing you've got in common with Paul, is the Facebook group Countdowners. I'm not on Facebook myself, so I don't know all the terminology and stuff, I believe you're both moderators of the group.
Yep, we are both moderators. It's a woman called Chloe Jones who's the overall arching admin of the page. But then myself and Paul and a couple of others, Adam Beach and Paul Hindus, who was on the show. Mm-hmm. Was it this series or last series?
Yeah, it was this series. Yeah, it was about a month
this
ago
series.
Or so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think this is a good opportunity with the two of you here to sort of put that area of the community under the spotlight and really give it some credit. Now, I don't know much about this, but why don't you two just take us away on this? Tell us about it. Tell us how you got into it and what it does. Yeah.
It's an important part of the community. It's probably the most visible because it's Facebook. It's a public group. When I didn't realize when I first joined and I started doing myriad of teasers that all my non-countdown friends were seeing every single teaser and going. I mean, it was ridiculous. I was kind of addicted for a little while. So I didn't realise this, but it has such visibility. There are 780 members.
Something like that.
Something like that.
I'll get my phone out. Let's have a look at the stats.
They're all massive fans of the show, with different levels of ability. We have at 2:10 every day. We have a spoiler post that Chloe sets up. So it's basically the comments are collapsed. You're not going to see anything that'll spoil. If you haven't seen the game, you're not going to find out what happens unless you expand the comments. And we basically play along every day. And the crowds, there's at least usually sort of 4 or 5 of us. Sometimes there can be a lot more. And it's good fun. It tests us against the players that are playing daily, and I think it's fabulous. I would love to get more of them into Apto. I would love to get more of the Aptorites onto the Facebook group. I think it's the social aspect. There's none of this sort of hiding behind a pseudonym thing either. It's who you are. It's your Facebook identity. So I think people can sort of maybe in that regard maybe feel free to say what they're going to say, and what do you think, George?
Yep, I agree with Paul. There's also numbers posts, which I do 3 a day. There's varying difficulty numbers games that anyone can get involved in. I know there's a couple of letters games as well. Several people post teasers, just little fun games to keep people going. I think the thing Paul mentioned is everyone of different abilities. It's the only space where you'll get so many different abilities. So it doesn't matter if you're really good or you're just starting out. Everyone can get involved. Unlike sort of Apterus, it's a bit more elite. Yes. Yeah,
and I think most of the Facebookers, or the countdowners, I should say, would have that maybe slightly wrong impression of Apterus, that it is a sort of an elite boys club.
Which is, I mean, it's not. It is open to all. I think it's just by the nature of it being such a good resource. Just by being on there for an extended period of time, you tend to become the elite.
And like those who originated it as well were extremely gifted players, as we talked about with Innis. They were stalwarts of the game, very, 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 very elite players. So I mean that's natural.
And
well, the thing with Apterus is it's countdown practice first, with a little bit of chat on the side second, whereas Facebook is more of a social media platform.
No, I think George is right there.
Sure
I agree. I would agree with that. There's this Facebook. There's the chatting, but then there's the puzzles are sort of second fiddle, maybe. Yeah.
To me, that choice purely lies with the user. That if you want something to be more about the game and competitiveness than socialising, then you can make it that way, and you can just apply that equally to Apterus and Facebook. Obviously, because Apterus has such a well-oiled machine for playing the game, it lends itself towards that, but that's still entirely up to the user. There are plenty of users who log on just to chat and play quizzes in the chat and stuff. Some of them don't even have subscription to Apterus, so they can't play games. But
a lot of my mornings are like that on Apterus. They're spent sort of chatting. There is a social
there are
aspect,
people who spend hours a day on Apterus, yet then maybe they'll play one game if that.
And there's people who don't. There's people who don't really chat.
Logged on.
Yeah.
Yes, and yeah. So I see what you mean. Obviously, Facebook is primarily designed for talking to people, whereas Actress is primarily designed for playing a game. But it absolutely doesn't have to be that way.
No.
It's
I
up
totally
to
get you
users
there.
to decide how they want to approach it.
I think what for me, what would represent sort of success is to get some more of those Aptrites to join the Facebook group, because their opinion,
and vice versa.
It's so good when the likes of Elliot and Bradley and and James Houghton and all the elite players, when they come in and they sort of give a little bit of insight, or they give a great solve, or they give a great word, or they something that, because they're the best teachers. The elite players, they can show you how to play the game, and if you just add an E to this, look, you get another word. Things that maybe non-elite players would miss, and I love it when Elliot comes in for a swoop.
Yeah, it's nice to see the two communities sort of feeding into one another, and hopefully this podcast can be a bridge between them. I'm sure there are many members of the Facebook group who don't use Apterus and maybe don't attend events, who have learnt a bit about those areas of the community by listening to this podcast. Yeah, and maybe if there's any people who aren't on the Facebook group, they might learn something from you guys talking about it as you are now. Yeah, so one thing I'd be quite interested to hear, guys, because it's an area of the community that is quite alien to me, is for both of you really. How did you sort of get into the Facebook group, either just as a member or a moderator? Like how did that come about to you?
So for me, as a member, I was on Facebook and I thought, well, I was on the show at the time. I'd had a couple of wins. I thought, is there any sort of, group for Countdown fans and stuff on here? And, there's one called Countdowners. I'll join that.
Lo and behold,
I'm there. And I saw there's a spoiler post every day where people are discussing how well I'm doing. And I think Chloe said, I think he's got the potential to go on and get 8 wins. I'm not going to correct you, but... yeah. And then, as a moderator, I think early on, Chloe was doing a lot of the work herself, and as the group grew, it got a bit much, so she asked a few people just to come forward, like, if you've got a bit of spare time in the day, just to do some posts and that, would anybody like to? I'm like, yeah, I'll do some.
Was that when I was asked as well, George, or was that way before that? It was way before that. It was way before I joined. You were a moderator, were you, or was it just around that time?
I don't know if you were one of the original moderators or not. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
I think there was a Paul moderator, but I can't remember if it was you, Paul, or another Paul. But either way.
Occasionally you have to flex your muscle and say, oi lads, behave. This is a shared community. Please be nice. That's rule number 1, is just play nice. But it's an easy job. It's not a difficult job, Callum. I
thought rule number 1 was don't mention the Countdowners Club.
Yeah, no, well, we have to. We're plugging it. So we break that rule today. We have to. We have, what happens in the Countdowners Club stays in the Countdowners Club, obviously, but they're an important...
Yeah, it certainly sounds like an important part of the community.
I think so, yeah.
Facebook isn't really for me, but for I know it's a service that a lot of people use, and it's certainly, if nothing else, I think it's a very good window into the rest of the Countdown community. If we can get more people trickling through onto the C4 Countdown forum and
to Apters
and events especially.
I would never have found Apters.
I've met a couple of guys. Yeah, like obviously I've met you, Paul. I've met Callum Carton a few times. I've met a few people who have come into the community via the Facebook group. So yeah, hopefully we can get more people coming through.
And it's the same as the show as well. Hopefully it's a comfort in these sort of dark times, that when there's that uncertainty of when the show's going to be back, if the show's going to be back, when's our next co-event. I mean, hopefully it's a daily recurrence. It's going to hopefully a little candle to keep burning. During these dark times, I think so.
Yeah, I'd just like to mention a little story. I think my first co-event was your one, Callum, in Leeds 2018.
Yeah, and it was Leeds, yes.
I attended that because I thought, I remember this Focally thing, and they do these countdown tournaments, and I'd just been on that Easter And I thought, well, let's see where, is upcoming, see if it's anywhere near me. Because at the time I hadn't travelled around much. I was only 19, I think. Maybe 20, hang on. No, I was 19. No, I was 20. Yes, I was 20. God, I'm old.
Mm-hmm. Good
Insight into the excellent counting skills of counting.
Good sums, yeah.
And I thought, let's see where some upcoming ones are. Oh, the next one's in Leeds in 2 weeks. How convenient. And that's the only reason I went. If it had been somewhere far up north in Scotland or down south, I may never have come to one. So it was just pure coincidence. Yep. And then I did my second one a few months later in Cambridge. Went down on the Friday night, stayed over, and Zarte came to join me, and we got a twin room, had a takeaway, all good. And I remember him saying to me that night, "You've got friends that aren't in the Countdown community? It's not allowed. I mean, Countdown's going to take over your whole life." I said to him, "I don't think Countdown's going to take over my life, Zarte. I've got plans this weekend with other friends, which, if I get drunk enough, I'll talk about at some point. Look, this is not going to take over my life." And 2 years later, kind of has. So, yeah, he was right and I was wrong. Yeah. For better or for worse? Well, for better.
One other thing before George goes, I know he won't want to talk about this, but I'm not letting him get away that easily. You have been seen a couple of times since your appearance on the telly, George, getting conundrums from the audience.
Yes.
And do you want to tell us? I know when we've had people on before, I think people have really enjoyed listening to some of the guys who are in the 30th birthday championship about some of the stuff that happens behind the scenes when filming the show that you don't necessarily see when watching it. So can you tell us a bit about how it came about that you ended up being the audience member answering the conundrum, George?
Okay, so you were there, Callum, as you know, and I think me and yourself were there.
I was.
Fiona as well, and Bradley Horrocks. And we'd gone to watch Luke Johnson-Davies on his run on the show. And it was one of his episodes. He missed I think he got the conundrum wrong or went in too early or something. And then we're all in the audience like, "Oh, we've got it. And Nick puts it to us. And he says, points, "You in the red t-shirt." Now, Fiona was sat next to me wearing what I will describe...
You got a cup of tea, folks?
...as a pink t-shirt, because it was pink. It wasn't red, it was pink. Now, Nick's quite old, so I forgive him for not being able to see such a long way and getting his colours wrong. I'll forgive him for that. I had on...
You're forgiven, Nick.
...a red and black shirt. Definitely red. I was the only one who was wearing any sort of red. And I shouted the answer out, which was the correct answer. And Fiona's like, "I thought he meant me." I'm like, "Oh shit, did he mean you? Oh dear." Well, this is awkward.
He did.
He
said,
did mean Fiona.
I meant the lady.
He did mean Fiona. And then they turned the camera around afterwards, to pick up the shot of one of us saying the answer. And they handed us the microphone, and Fiona gave it to me, and I gave it back to her, and we just kept passing it back and forth. Because in the end, neither of us wanted to do it.
No, I'm paying. You know I'm paying.
I was demanding Fiona to do it because they meant her. And she's like, "No, you do it." So in the end, I reluctantly did it and got my mug.
Reluctantly, with
felt very bad about it for about an hour until the next episode comes along, and Fiona, having I think stolen one of the mugs last time round. I think one of the runners gave her one. Got the conundrum on the next episode. And everything was okay in the universe, and I don't know why you all make such a big deal of this.
Yeah, so happy ending there. In the end, you both got to get on the telly and get a mug.
Yeah.
But yeah, that will forever now known as Red Shirt Gate. There have been prizes at co-events before for whoever gets the most conundrums. I can confirm at my next co-event, the prize for the most conundrums solved will be a red T-shirt in honour of George. And if you
It's a
want
red
to
rag
judge
to a
yourself
bull.
whether or not George was wearing a red T-shirt or indeed
Pink.
a T-shirt at all, and not just a shirt,
Pink.
then if you look on George's wiki page, his countdown wiki page, if you search for George Armstrong, it is actually one of the featured photographs on that page. You can see George's attire, and you can judge for yourself whether or not that is more like a red T-shirt than a slightly pink.
All right. In the
T-shirt.
moment, I got confused. I just heard the colour red.
You heard it here?
I heard the word red.
There's the definitive response.
We do like to wind George up about it every now and then, just because he rises to the bait.
Yes, I do.
There you go. Thank you for discussing that, George.
Yeah, thanks very much, George. It's been great chatting to you and getting your insight into what it's like hosting an event or trying to host an event. And I suppose we'll be all listening to find out what's going to happen over the next few months.
Yep. And when everything returns to normal, hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll see. If you are able to reschedule these events, then we'll have you back on, and you can come and plug them all to us, because we'd all love to see those events go ahead eventually once it's safe and responsible to do so.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome, George.
Always, thank you, George. Okay, yeah, so that was George Armstrong talking to us about his countdown history and his events that have unfortunately had to be postponed. We certainly hope that both events, York and London, will be able to be rearranged for another time. And someone else who's hoping that he'll be able to attend those events is Thomas Carey, because he's been in blistering form this year at the co-events. Unfortunately, he's been stopped in his tracks a bit by current events, but he's sort of the co-event MVP at the moment, and he's just a general all-round countdown legend, as we all know. So this is us speaking to him a little earlier. So our second guest today is Thomas Carey, countdown legend. I think you're well and truly earned that title, Tom.
News to me.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Hi. Yeah, hi.
Thanks for joining us. So we've quite a lot of things to talk to you about. You've got a rather illustrious history in the game. I think you're well up there now on most events attended.
I want to say, as of Manchester, which might be the last one for the foreseeable future, I was 5th or something like that, but I'm pretty close. Like, I was sort of checking in the pub after Manchester, like, I reckon if I do this and this, like, these people probably aren't going to come, so I can get up to, like, 2020 was going to be my year. I'd literally... It was one of the few where, like, there was no event that I couldn't do because of other commitments and stuff. I was planning to go to them all, and now, like, at least 3 have been cancelled. But still, like...
Gosh darn it, this was your Olympic year.
Yeah. Well, Callum said that to me after I won Manchester. That, like, you know, because Callum swept everything in 2019 pretty
He
much.
did, yeah, he did. He gobbled them all
saying
up,
that
didn't
to
he?
me, but
Yeah.
This is the year of the Carey.
So you were peaking. You were just hitting form.
Well, I mean, I don't know, like... Arguably, I peaked a long time ago. If you go by Aptos rating and stuff, I'm about 300 off where I was just before Champion of Champions. But then, like, in events, I'm sort of doing better than ever recently. So, I don't know. Maybe that just happens to people. But
what do you put it down to? Maturity?
Partly that, partly...
Immaturity? Which is it?
I think just not caring so much. Like,
yeah.
It's
Almost
obviously
not
nice to keep winning shit, but yeah, there you go. It's nice to keep winning shit, but, like, I used to care way too much about, like, my performance in Countdown, like, Aptos rating, and also my performance at events and stuff. Like, I'd feel a bit shit when I'd lose to someone I figured I could have beaten, or when when I came out of a call-in with, like, 3 or 4 wins and, like, I could have got 5. But now it's just, like, if I have a bad day, I have a bad day. Like, I won 2 games at Liverpool last year, which... Even though those 2 wins were, like, Zati and James Horton, like, it still put me really low on the standings because of how it works, but I just... that's how it is sometimes, and I had a good time at Liverpool, and it's a lot of the time when I see new people come in to co-events and I'm chatting to them and they're like, oh, yeah, I'll be really annoyed if I don't win, like, 3 or 4 or whatever, and I'm like, this is... Like, that is exactly how I felt, and I totally get it, because when I was,
Yeah, I'm guilty of that, probably.
Yeah, I guess you might be one of those people, but, like, as soon as you can get rid of it...
You were thinking of me,
like,
weren't you? Yeah.
the more fun events are. I wasn't actually. I don't think I've ever really spoken, because like the only event you went to was Colin, and I didn't really speak to you all day because there were so many people. But
got 4 wins. Don't want to brag, like, but I got 4 wins.
That's pretty flipping good for your first event. Like
First
a handy draw. A handy draw. You see, that's probably the newbies get a handy draw.
Well, you'll see. I mean,
we do. Like,
well,
we do
sort of. It puts you in the middle group, but then that theoretically means you could have been drawn with Jack Worsley and Tim Down. So.
I mean, the Colin seeding system is like notoriously silly, and you're always going to get people in pot C like Tim Down, and you just have to get lucky. I mean, this time I was in pot A, but I got a newbie and prune as my first table, and I obviously walked it. But like, yeah, if you're in the middle pot, you might get one easy game. Is basically what you're saying. It's by no means a guaranteed easy draw, and depending on, obviously you're one of the better newbies, Paul, but like. A lot of new players would lose to your standard pot C player, so...
Maybe, yeah.
It depends who it is, really.
But I understand George had that kind of look on me. He's like, so how many wins did you get? I was like, 4. He goes, 4? What?
Nah.
It's if I spat in his soup, you know.
It's George. Yeah. He's a drama queen.
Well, he's like, you've no right coming here and getting 4.
Yeah. Who do you think you are?
All evens out in the end.
Yeah, I don't get that nerves. I don't get the nerves at the co-events. I've said before plenty of times on air. I get that with Apto playing any of you.
No, see, I've been.
I don't know why.
Said it for years to people, and it was really backed up, I think, by what Innes said about how successful he's been when he was on the podcast. That people who say, "Oh, you know, I want to win more." The best way you can achieve that is by stop wanting to win more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, you definitely saw it in your series, Callum.
Yeah.
On telly. Like, obviously there were a lot of things affecting that, but like, literally being like, oh, this guy's just going to get dicked by Jen and then Glenn and then Dylan to just winning the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you go there without putting expectations and pressure on yourself and not make winning, whether that's winning the whole event or winning X amount of games or whatever your target is, just don't make that the objective of the day, especially with events, because that's not what it's about. And same with Apterus. Like, if you're playing on Apterus, if you only enjoy playing when you win, you should probably just not play.
It's not that for me. It's more just like I was saying this to George the other day. I feel with every game against every human that I play on, like I feel like I'm nearly staking my whole reputation on that one game, whereas I don't get that in person.
No,
like as you say, Tom, I couldn't care if I win or lose. At an event, I'm there for the sociability. You know, I'm there for obviously the competition
that's
too.
What it should be.
But but I'm there for the whole experience rather than to massage my ego, and maybe Apterus is more about my ego.
Well,
I don't know.
To me, I think surely Apterus would fit that definition more, that you're just there for the social nature of it. Because I mean, what do you win for winning some games in Apterus? Literally, you win an event.
Pride, I suppose. It's more.
Yeah, but
it's more
you could just say that to the events as well. Like the events, you get all the pride and all that stuff, but you also get, you know, your name goes down on the list as person who won this event. So there's some sort of prestige and history there, and you get a trophy. Maybe you get like a bottle of wine or some chocolates or something. Or whatever.
Well, maybe it's the immediate impact of that rating change. Then you get a hammer in it.
Don't get me started on ratings points.
We'll do this. We'll save that. We'll park that then until we get Charlie on the show, because it's a major issue. It sort of goes untalked about, but it's a massive factor in the
people have
psychological
unhealthy
well-being, spurious
You're completely
or not,
right.
of the users.
Yeah. Although
I'm
I have
definitely
to say,
guilty of that.
If you say talking to Charlie about that, I definitely don't think that's really anything Charlie could do or should do or has to do.
No, maybe not.
The onus is definitely on the users to snap out of that, you know, addictive mindset. That, you know, it's the sort of mindset that gambling addicts fall into, where you
kinda, and I'm definitely guilty. Like I do not care about my rating nowadays. It's still mildly annoying to lose to a player you think you could have beaten, especially if it's a fairly close game. But like I don't. You know, I look at the number and I'm like, lol, my rating. Like I recently dipped below 2,000 for the first time in a long time, when I was like mid 2200s coming up to Champion of Champions. But like I'm like, well, I know how good I am. I know that, like, at Manchester, I beat Jack twice, and Callum, and Stephen and James Houghton, and people like that. And
everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Like, obviously that was a very lucky day for me, but, like, I know how good I am, and some number going up and down isn't going to change that. And, like, there was a time in 2015, shortly before I filmed my Octa run, where I think I lost a couple of, like, very winnable games, and then I was like, okay, well, I've got to get those points back tonight. I can't come out of the day with, like, a negative points amount.
Yeah.
And then I played, like, I think it was Marcus a few times, and I just kept losing, and I lost about 130 points that night, and I just felt really, really shit.
That's what I mean. It's like
it
a
happens
gambler's
to
thing.
literally everyone.
Yeah, it's
Sorry,
a
go on.
gambler's thing. You're chasing your losses, and it's a really, really unhealthy mindset.
Yeah.
And if anyone feels that, I think you really have to get a hold of yourself and arrest that before it becomes a problem.
But then should the ratings be so in your face? They're the most in your face thing in the site.
I don't think they are in your face at all.
Well, they're right
Yeah,
beside,
no, I think
beside
it's-
your name. They're the thing that most closely associated with your name.
I
is your
guess so,
rating.
but again, like, you know how good people are. Like, I think the ratings should be there. I think they are helpful at the beginning. It's just be wary of falling into that mindset. And I know everyone falls into it, but, like, and if you ask Charlie or someone about this, he'll say, well, ratings don't mean anything anyway. It's pro ranks what you've got to look at, but pro ranks kind of have the same issue. But, like,
The
Pro ranks are 2 clicks away, but they're 2 clicks away. I think ratings should be 2 clicks
they're
away.
weekly, so it's not it's not that
Yeah,
instant.
true.
I've just lost it. I have to get it back now. You know, it's
yeah, because you can't see how much you lose, and
Just
the
sort of-
algorithm being really stupidly complicated is probably quite a good thing for pro ranks.
Yeah.
So,
It should just, for me, it should just be that bar on the right should just be whether you're online or not. Not whether you're busy or any of those options or anything. I know, though, even though it suits me because I'd have loads of people challenging me when I can't take games when I've got the kids. So I mean that's why
Sure.
I'd be busy quite a lot for that reason. You know,
makes sense.
but if it was just online, maybe people would be challenging me, and maybe I wouldn't fancy the game, and I'd have to say no.
Yeah, I think how it is a good system. Like, nothing's ever going to please everyone, but, like, I think it's important for sort of Apterus to go on is to have the ratings, because I think it adds a lot to a lot of games when you know how good you are as a personal thing. Like, I imagine a lot of people would not have stuck with Apterus as long as they have if there wasn't an indicator of how good they were doing.
it can be used to measure your progress, because not everyone's going to look at their max percentage KPIs and all that shit.
Exactly.
I look at my stats. I have to say I do. I mean, I remember at the start thinking I'm going to pay that extra. What is it?
Yeah.
£6, £6 for the.
It's
Super
£3.
Star.
I think it's £6 on
for
its own, or £3
Yeah,
extra
or
if
three
you buy
with
the
the
two as a
thing,
package
but-
deal.
Or whatever it was, yeah. It was. I'm thinking in
it's
euro,
definitely
whatever,
worth it to get
€26
Superstars.
or something. But it's I do look at them because for me they were sort of good training and just to see where you are. I would use that far more than my rating. I think I'm
Sure.
better than my rating. For example, I don't play that much. You know what I mean?
No, that's the
Yeah.
other thing, yeah. The ratings just really don't reflect activity and stuff very well.
No,
Like-
if you play bots all the time, I play bots all the time, so you know because it sort of suits my schedule.
Exactly, you can sort of break it off mid-game.
Yeah.
Again, like, I know how good I am, you know how good you are, Callum knows how good he bloody is, so you don't need a number to prove or disprove that, and
Yeah,
just play the game, just enjoy yourself.
correct.
Can we start at the beginning then, Callum? Can
That's
we do
the-
this way around this time?
So
Can
we
ask-
got
can-
sort of sidetracked on
we
Apterus
ask
ratings
them-
and stuff. But yeah, so what I was going to get into was that one of the reasons you've attended so many events is that you started really young. Like, what were you, 13 or something when you first started coming to these
Yeah,
events?
it's annoying because I usually say 12 out loud. I was 12 when I joined Apterus. I was 5 days after my 13th birthday when I went to my first event, so technically I was 13, but I like to say 12 because it's basically 12, and I was in the community at 12, and it sounds like... It sounds a lot younger 12 than 13, and for a week's difference.
It's a pre-teen, I suppose, rather than
Yeah.
a teen, I guess. But go back even further. What's your earliest Countdown memory? What's the first thing you remember about Countdown?
Well, that's the thing, actually, because a lot of, if you ask a lot of people, like, they'll be like, oh, when I was 3 years old, I was watching with me granny, and she used to get the word unguent, but, like, I don't have that. I obviously was aware of Countdown as a concept when I was really young, and, like, I knew how the numbers game worked, I guess I knew, like, how all the rounds worked, and I knew how to play the game, and I guess I enjoyed the numbers because I was, like, quite into that stuff as a kid, but I never really watched it. Like, it wasn't a thing we had on in our house, and I just was never interested enough to turn the TV on to Countdown. And it was only when George has probably name dropped him as well. I haven't listened to George's bit, but like someone's
Joseph Kroll.
Yeah, exactly.
The name, yeah. This
it was only when Joseph Kroll.
We have to have him on someday. This talent scout.
Genuinely, I might. I'll ask him because I reckon he might. I'll do it anyway. So, for those of you who don't know, Joseph and I, when we were kids, well, like ever since I was about 2 years old and I moved up to Yorkshire, we've literally lived like across the road from each other. So we were in the same year at primary, and then we weren't actually that close lower down primary. So we were in the same year, but like we had 2 classes each year, and he was in the opposite class, and I had like a small but decent group of friends in my class, so I mostly hung out with them. And then it was only in like year 5 or 6 that I got really close with Joseph, and I guess because we were both like very similar at the time. I mean, he's like astronomically smarter than me, but like I was probably the closest thing he had in primary school. So we
I doubt that. You're a fiercely intelligent fellow yourself now, so he must
no,
he
but
must
Joseph
be an Einstein,
is like,
is he?
Oh yeah, like Joseph.
Even if that were true,
is a proper
like
clever
Joseph
boy.
is like on another fucking planet.
Yeah.
This is the kid who got like 17 A stars at GCSE, despite being like pretty much one of the youngest in the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then he was like 4th in the year in one of the Cambridge Maths exams, whereas I was like
wow.
94th, I think, which I'm really happy with.
That's the entire UK, isn't it?
Yeah, and well, the entire world, including
all the applicants. Wow, yeah.
All the like private school kids who have been
that's a subset of a
this
subset,
crap.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so like, I was really close with Joseph in like year 5 and 6, and then we went to different secondary schools. So there was like 2 rival local comprehensives in the area, and most of my primary year went to the one that Joseph went to, but me and like 2 of my other close friends went to this other one, and I think only 9 out of like 60 of us went to that. But yeah, but we still kept in touch, and then at some point Joseph got into Countdown. Well, he found Apterus. I'm not really sure how, but like I think he just like Googled for it. But he would like tell me everything about like the players on the show, and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm playing all these people on Apto." Like Scott Gillies was quite big at the time. This was like late 2010, early 2011, and he would just not talk about anything but fucking Countdown and Apterus for so long.
My wife knows that feeling
now.
Yeah.
No, but like it's different when it's a 12-year-old kid and it's like your best friend, and like. There was this one time we went on a canal boat trip to like Sowerby Bridge with scouts, and we were on this canal boat for like 5 days with about 8 kids, and yeah, he just kept talking about like all the fucking Apterus variants and all the people he'd played and all that, and eventually he made me get an account, and I called it Thomas Cheesy, and I never played a game, and that account still exists. Look it up, dude. But like. I used to like spec Joseph's games on it and be like, "Oh, you're doing super well," even though like he really wasn't. But then, yeah, after about a lot more time, at some point I joined the forum when I went to Joseph's house after we went to watch like Harry Potter in the cinema. I joined the forum, and I was an annoying kid on the forum, as was Joseph. But thankfully, this was the era of certain other kids who were significantly more annoying than us. So. We didn't get as much.
Name some names there now. Who are we talking about?
I mean, one of them was Joseph's sister, and the other is still a semi-active user, so I'm not going to name drop him, but you all know who it is.
Okay.
Yeah, like... But yeah, Joseph's sister Sophie was quite big into the forum then, so like the 3 of us... Like, because I went to Joseph's house all the time, and the 3 of us would just like sit and shitpost on the forum a lot, and it would be really annoying for everyone else. But yeah, that was a thing. And then, yeah,
guffawing away to yourselves.
Yeah. Good times. And yeah, at some point I joined Apterus. I got really into it, and then eventually Joseph moved on to better things, such as quizzing, and I just stayed.
Better?
Well, different.
That's a loaded
Yeah.
comment.
But, well,
This is
It
the
depends.
Focal Talk podcast relating to Countdown. So
countdown's a bag of
wash
shite, really.
wash your mouth out, young man. Says him raised in the crash of Countdown. You were schooled in Countdown. Your formative years were spent in the company.
It's a
of
weird
people
one.
interested in Countdown. When
What
maybe
was it
say
like
other
coming to events
maybe other
and
people
stuff?
would be into maybe bands or things like that at that age. You know,
Countdown.
Yeah, I wonder what would happen if I had a vaguely normal teenagerhood. I mean, there was definitely times, like, if you look at my playing history, there was a year in, like, sort of all of 2014, so from about halfway through 2013 to the beginning of 2015, I still managed to keep up playing at least one game every month, but, like, I was very, very inactive compared to the rest of the time, and I mean, there was a lot. I was sort of discovering bands and stuff, and I had my first girlfriend, and I was, like, playing Minecraft all the time, like, during those
good.
years.
That stuff's important. Like it is.
There's definitely
Music,
times.
girls,
And
and
the older you
Minecraft,
get,
yeah.
I think the older you get, the more you realise that those years are important. For that,
Yeah.
for those reasons, to not maybe be too obsessive about one thing, but to sort of sample a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I'm glad I sort of took a bit of vague time out. Like, I went from being obsessed with the show in the era of 68 and 69, like Callum's series, to not even knowing who won Series 70 until, like,
How could you?
a long time afterwards when I looked it up on the wiki.
Mark,
I hear
I
it
don't think I
wasn't.
was-
I hear it wasn't half the series of '69, but so.
Well,
there
I
was
mean,
some.
nothing
There were
was.
some bangers on Series 70, man. We had like.
You're meant to go, yeah, Cal, yeah.
No,
obviously it
well,
was,
obviously Series 69 was pretty dope, but I mean, we had Mark Murray versus Kieran McCarthy.
Yeah,
You know, we had Pete
that's I was
Stegg.
about to say, like,
Yeah.
everything good about Series 70 happened in Mark's Octarun. I guess Samir Pillager as well,
And there
but,
was
like...
Pete Stegg. Wait, did Pete play Mark? I thought Pete.
Oh, I can't... He played someone
he
good.
played someone
I
good,
can't
didn't
remember.
he? I remember that being
As I
a
say,
really
I
good
didn't
game.
watch the series.
Sounds
Yeah.
like an awful letdown after '69, but doesn't it? I mean,
Well,
'69, you know.
Only because it
it's-
came after 69,
It's
though.
loaded. It's
If-
loaded. You can't beat a '69, really, can you? So it's,
Yeah, well, if,
you know, you have that
We're all
go. The
thinking it.
numerology was in your favour.
in the favour. Yeah.
Well, I genuinely think that was part of the reason why so many, like, good players went on. I mean, I think it was definitely part of the reason why Jen applied when she did.
They
but-
went at '69. I got to be on this one. Yeah.
yeah, and
I just sort of stumbled in there by sheer dumb luck. I had no
worked
idea.
out for you, didn't it?
I didn't really realise until nearly at the finals that this was in any way an unusual series. So
Because you weren't even a big fan of the show, Colin. I was thinking about this last
No,
night. You know,
no.
there's this. You have this kind of legend that you kind of worked in there and sort of gunslung everyone.
He's the sort of typical, like, working class boy who doesn't
Yeah,
know shit
that's
about
it.
anything.
Doesn't
but
even
just,
know
like,
what he's doing, but he sort of went in
Yeah.
there and kicked ass,
I
kind
like.
of thing. And,
Do you know that song, "The Ultimate Showdown"?
I've heard it.
Where there's all the comic book heroes and film stars having a big fight, and at the end, the winner's just a guy called Mr. Rogers. I feel
What,
like I
from
was the
Neighbourhood?
I was the Mr. Rogers. You must have heard it. It's by Lemon Demon or something
Lemon
like
I
that.
Demon.
know the one
Okay,
you
I know
mean.
The Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny. Everyone's heard that song.
Yeah,
I don't think
I
I
know.
have.
Look
I'll
it
go
up
listen to
after
it.
we record this podcast. Yes,
Yeah, I
and
will
then at the end reflect on
It's
how
kinda
I
rapping,
was
is it?
the Mr. Rogers of a sort.
Of a sort.
It's sort of like
stylistically
Flight of the
rapping,
Conchords style.
yeah. Yes,
Right,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Anyway, yeah. So I was sort of the Mr. Rogers of Series 69, I suppose.
I guess if we go back into, like, my young countdown memories, because there's definitely, like, one of the first... I'd say, like, you know, when I had that little time out in 2014, like, that sort of splits, like, between, like, when I was just a young kid playing and then when I was actually trying to get good and filmed and stuff, but, like... And also got, like, properly into the community because I was, like, sort of 17, 18 and actually made some really good friends through the community. But I think my first memory from... Or my favourite co-event memory from before I was, like, actually had friends in the community that weren't Joseph was in 2013 at Countdown in Leamington. Like, that was a really fun event. that Andy and Dan ran.
Yeah, I remember that.
Liverpool.
That was my first ever event. Yeah, that was really
exactly.
Good.
I remember playing you on the first table with you and Glenn Webb, and I came really close to beating you, which, obviously at the time you weren't very good, and neither was I, but, like, in hindsight, if I could have, like, got that off, if I could have pulled it off right at the beginning, that would have been pretty amazing.
He leads you into these false senses of security.
So my first two co-event games were against you and Glenn?
I'm pretty sure it was Glenn. It was definitely
I don't
you.
remember that. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember who I played that day other than one or two people that just stand out for some reason. That was pretty
Callum
cool.
gave me round one as well at Colin, so like you can't read too much into it. He's just lulling you into a false sense of security and then
playing with my food.
At the time, he was definitely not Callum Todd.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
was he
sure.
Not? Was he mortal?
I think I'd been on actress
bleed?
for about a week at the time.
Exactly, yeah.
Did you bleed when you cut you at the time? Did you?
I think I won Group C on that day, so I was doing okay. But you know,
I am staring at my Countdowning Leamington Spa Group B third place clock thing.
Well, that was a meaty
right
group because weren't the top two in that Zate and T-Cap? Or have I misremembered that?
No, you're thinking of a different event, dude. Oh no, actually, yeah, no,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because I lost to flipping T-Cap in the semi. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, so
no shame,
that was
shame.
That was a really strong event. You know, in the top group you had Jack Worsley, Jack Hurst, Dylan Taylor, Rob Foster.
Yeah, all those boys.
Yeah,
I completely forgot about that because I sort of look at I'm staring at my shelf of countdown trophies and stuff, and there's a lot of
my shelf of
yeah. It's just all these trophies gonna fall through the ceiling from the loft where I keep them because I got too many. But that's the thing. Seriously though, there was a thread on either the forum or some Facebook group or whatever at some point recently, which is is there even any point having trophies for shit that's not the top three? But as much as I love all these ones and twos and threes up there, I'm really happy with my Group B third place from Leamington because it's sort of the only trophy I won when I wasn't very good. Yeah. But it's still, I was really happy to win something, and I remember when I was playing, I think Jeff Clayton in the third place game. I remember being really, or maybe it was Adam Dexter or someone like that, but I remember being really, really happy when I won him because I'd won the bronze, even if it wasn't the bronze that people cared about.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I like the grouped events for that reason.
That was your final, I suppose. Yeah. It's a third place playoff kind of thing.
Yeah, it gives everyone something to play for.
Because
sometimes at the events where it's three rounds of two games, if after 2 rounds you're on 2 wins, then you're like, oh well, I suppose there's nothing to play for now.
Exactly.
You're 2 out of 4, you mean?
Yeah, if you're on 2 out of 4, it feels a bit hollow the last round, whereas
you sort of can't make the final. That kind of thing.
That's definitely a big plus of the system where they have groups, is that everyone has something to play for.
I suppose I didn't have that because my expectations weren't to make the final. If your expectations are to make the final, then you're going to look at your 2 out of 4
it's just that
differently than maybe I would have looked at my 2 out of 4.
Oh well, it's that.
I was on.
There's still
I
a
was
pro
3 out
for
of
you,
4.
because if you're never dreaming of making the final anyway, then you could say you go into an event with you're not going to win anything at all anyway. Whereas if there's groups, you could win group whatever, B, C, D.
I get what you're saying, but obviously there's massive go back to the group system in the sense of remember Leicester 2012 when Dylan had 3 bastards in the heat games where you get randomly drawn, or T-Cap at Bristol 2016 and people like that. And anyway, you end up with one really good player in a really low group because they had 3 really tough games in the sort of 3 seeding games. And then not only is it no fun for T-Cap when he's in walloping everyone in Group C, but it's also no fun for the people who are in Group C and deserve to be in Group C because they have no chance of winning the group now that T-Cap's in there for some reason.
Yeah, I know that definitely does happen. I'm not saying it's a better system by any means, but it just one positive of it is that it gives people something.
Yeah,
to play
I mean,
for.
it's swings and anuses, isn't
it? It's 3 out of 4. If you take any event that you can think of, is 3 out of 4. If you're at 3 out of 4, you're still thinking, yeah, I'm in there with a chance.
Oh yeah. Most events. Some when there's a large field.
Some you'd have to be 4. It really depends on the draw, doesn't it? There's a bit of luck. I mean, it's the same with every sport, every competition. It depends who you're playing, in which order. like me, I could have got. I should have beaten Jamie Wing and been in that series, but I know I would have. I would probably only would have got 2 more games.
Yeah.
Who cares?
And been hammered by James quite rightly in the final. But so I don't know would it added much more to my experience. Don't know because I wouldn't have won. I knew I wouldn't have won.
Oh, yeah, James was playing pretty good.
He was at least 50 points better than any of the rest. Any of the other players in the tournament.
Yeah,
that's objectively true. I find he is a bit of a bottle when you play him, but like I reckon he probably could have still walked that series because he didn't have anyone like at his level.
He was most worried about me because I knew him, and I don't know. I think he was, he was worried about people. I mean, I think I could have given him a game, but I don't think
potentially because he does tend to bottle it a bit when he's nervous. So
he can. But
he won Newcastle last year when he was like 17 points down. Or something.
But as he said on this program, he had a terrible co-dub, and he was quite rightly worried about his form. He was having a bit of a lull just before the finals were about to start, so he was like, I'm not playing great.
It went well enough.
My head's up my hole kind of thing. I need to get the finger out, and he did. He had a crap tournament to Dublin, and it sorted him out.
Yeah.
He was like, well, I can't play any worse than that. So
just start to
and I says, man, just enjoy it. You're back in the champion's chair.
Exactly. Yeah.
Remember that feeling. You're the champion. They got to beat you.
This just circles back to everything I was saying the whole time. Like with any game, but like especially Countdown, because you get a lot of people like taking it way too seriously for like a little game that no one really cares about. Like you have to enjoy it. If you're not enjoying the game, just like stop playing right now. If you're like into it enough, I guarantee there'll be a point in a couple of months' time or whatever where you'll come back to Apterus or whatever, and you'll play a few games, and you won't care if you win or lose, but you'll have fun. And if you're not at that level, then like stop playing for a bit. Like take some time out because it's just going to be unhealthy for you.
Absolutely. The most profound thing I've heard We've heard a lot of profound things from you guys, especially in the group. It was one that stuck, Callum, was you saying that night that anyone who applies for this game is probably the best Countdown player they know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so bloody true. It's truism, but it needs repeating. That you don't know who you're up against until you come, and there's always someone better, even if you're Elliot. Probably some kid out there that's better than Elliot.
No, I'm not having that.
But there probably is. Statistically speaking, there probably is.
Nah,
well,
there's always someone out there better than you, and it's Elliot. That's where I draw the line.
Still him.
Yeah.
It's Elliot. Well, he's Elliot's cousin. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, the thing is, like, obviously, right now, pick your favourite player out of like Elliot, Jack, Callum, Connor, whatever. Like,
Elliot,
there's someone at the top who is the best, or at least in this pool of people who is the best, but there's always going to be like someone right now who hasn't heard of the game who is going to come and be the next best thing, and then there'll be another. And it doesn't really matter. I mean, we were all saying
you're always good, but you guys have plenty of wins against Elliot, both of you.
Exactly.
So, not many people do, but
plenty
you guys
of losses
do.
as well.
You got plenty of losses.
Well, the thing is, once you get to a certain level, you can beat anyone because,
because it's a simple enough game. Once you're at the level where you can get a 13 or 14 max game, you can beat anyone.
I'm not at that yet. I've had a max, but I'm not at that.
No, you've got a max game.
Averaging a 12 or 13.
No, but it's not about average.
Like,
it's not about average.
Still a 10 or 11 average.
Yeah, no one cares, Paul. Like, you have maxed the game. Were you playing that against Elliot? It doesn't matter if he maxes it or not. Even if he takes it to a crucial, it's a race to the buzzer, and Elliot's conundrums are not that good compared to...
They're better than mine. I'm shit, man. I'm shit when it comes to the...
Well, yeah, but like the thing is, anyone can win.
Crap.
Okay, whatever, but like...
Mouse has come on his podcast fucking trash-talking all the Oldhamites. He's called James Horton a bottle. He's slagged off Elliot's conundrums.
What about James Horton's dad? Have you got something? You got an opinion on him there as well?
He doesn't have
Oldham's third best.
He doesn't
Oldham's
have
I beat him in
minerals.
a bare knuckle fight, and my leg doesn't even work right now. So, yeah.
Is James Horton's dad Oldham's third best Countdown player?
He's the best.
He's the best.
To be honest.
He's the best.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah.
Obviously different formats than James and Elliot enjoy.
I'd wallop them all, one after another.
You would not wallop.
He's the king
James
of
Hutton
he's the
stuff.
king of Eliops, king of Iggy Lops.
Throw Zate into the ring as well. I'd beat him up. Anyway,
Who do you put at the top? Who's your countdown hero?
me.
Who?
Oh, bloody hell.
You know most of them personally, but who do you personally think
I said
is the
me
best
asking a
countdown
question,
player?
not me as like myself. I am not anyone's countdown hero, or at least I believe shouldn't be.
You're mine. You're one of my favourite players, I have to say.
Oh,
Certain
cheers.
players you enjoy, and I said this to you in September when I met you that first time, was just certain players you enjoy their game, whatever way they play. Like, think of a snooker player. Some players you hate watching, some players you enjoy watching. And you were one of the players that I enjoyed watching.
I mean, yeah, thanks. Like, that's again like enjoying the game. Like, in fact, definitely my favorite like studio moment has to be after I just played Zate in the Champions quarterfinal, and I don't care that like I lost and it wasn't a particularly close game, but like just because it was so incredible.
It was TV history. You were part of that.
Yeah, okay, it was cool that, like, Zate won the high score or whatever, but that's not even, like, the best bit. Like, it was just cool to, like, be on the set and piss around with him and, like, play noughts and crosses, rock, paper, scissors during the numbers, and, like, just piss around. Yeah. And it was really fun. And then
it's the best game. I think it's the best game of Countdown this past...
Exactly.
10
and then
years.
as we were walking off the set or whatever, and like a bunch of people came up to us in the audience and were like, you've just like reminded me, like Fred said something like, you reminded me why I love this game or whatever, and like so many people have said like that was the best game they ever watched.
It was,
and, like,
and the remarkable thing about it was super high scoring and everything, but that would have probably still have been the best game I've ever watched from the audience, even if it was like 82 plays 70 or something.
Exactly. Yeah, but because like a lot, most of the time when you think of like a good countdown game, you'd think of something like you and Jamie or whatever. But like me and Zate like didn't have like the traditional mold of that. It wasn't a particularly close game. There was no like rivalry because it was just mates pissing about, but it was still. Like
very memorable, very memorable.
Just, really memorable and really fun to do.
I mean, you like if you did a Family Fortunes and you walked down Oxford Street and said, "Name me the most memorable game." You know, what's the game you remember of Countdown this past 10 years? Most people would say that game. You know, those that said, "Sorry, what's Countdown?" Which is that the movie? No.
Well, yeah, obviously.
But once you had found some Countdown fans, if you walked in Salford, you would you get that opinion. They go, yeah, we all remember that game. All the Albiddies will remember that game.
We should do that on the forum or something, a little poll, most memorable game in recent
years.
Well,
it can be a bit like James Robinson's like CoVid Pointless crap.
yeah.
Do that again, but with Countdown.
Did you win CoVid Pointless?
I did, yeah. Well, okay, no. Jack Worsley won it for me.
Oh, yeah, you got Taguchi Galpa, didn't you?
Fucking Countdown shit. Yeah, basically what it was this was the Pointless in 2016. This was so CoVid's usually pretty tiny, but this was the event that Jason Larson went to. So obviously, loads and loads of people. I think we had like 40 people, the previous year was 17.
Yeah.
Just because like everyone wanted to meet Jason, and this was in like my first week of uni, and I'd not had a particularly good week at uni. Like, I was feeling like unable to make friends and stuff, and I came all the way back up north for fucking Countdown in Huddersfield, and it felt really good. But like the Pointless thing was me and so the prize money was like 155 quid or whatever.
And the 5 was thanks to me because I got a Pointless answer the first year. So you and Jack both owe me £2.50 each.
I owe you a lot more than £2.50 with all the drinks you keep buying me. But yeah, there's it was the format they did it because I think in previous years people complained that like a lot of people just weren't getting goes. So what he did was 6 teams of 5, which got like 30 out of the 40 people playing, like 6 randomly drawn teams of 5, and then within each like set of 5 teams of 6. And within each set of 6 people, you pick 2 people to go out and play like whatever round it was. But if like whatever pair got like eliminated, the entire team would get eliminated. So there'd still be people in like the first teams to go who wouldn't get a go. So But, you know, it was a decent idea for a format, and it was good as an experimental thing. Like, it probably did overrun a bit, because that event ended up running quite a bit over time, but I guess, like, he wasn't expecting, like, so many people to come, so you can kind of forgive him, and it was still a really good event, and I got to play Jason. But yeah, like, and also won £77.50. So what happened in the end, like, our team of 6 ended up winning it. They ended up splitting the group of 6 into 3 teams of 2, and we had to play each other. And then I got put with Jack Worsley because that was a thing. And then we ended up winning it, and the final, it was something like, we had to name cities which were, I think it was cities above a certain population or something in either Russia or Central America, or maybe there would have been another one. Or maybe it wasn't population, but it was something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jack won it for us with Tegucigalpa, which is the capital of Honduras. So, cheers, Jack.
Yep, he smashed it. He's not just good at Countdown. He's not just good at Countdown. Right, so that's your event history, and we touched a bit on your Champion of Champions there. But do you want to talk us through your experience just going on Countdown as in your series, and whereabouts that came in your Countdown history, and what the experience was all like?
Well, I mean, I was 17 at the time. I was, you know, I'd been playing. As I said, I had this little hiatus in, like, 2014. It wasn't really a hiatus because I was still, like, playing occasionally and I was subscribed the whole way through, but, like, I wasn't playing as much. And then early 2015, and I guess we can talk about this as well later, but, like, I made my entrance back into Apterus, like, playing all the time through, like, the current series of The Mole that Zate was running. I fucking love The Mole and will defend it to my dying day, but anyway, that's a thing for a later time. So yeah, and then sort of early 2015 I was playing a lot. I was maybe rated like 1400 or something, but you know, I was okay, but I wasn't like where I wanted to be. And then I guess over the next few, I'd had quite a bad year in terms of other shit. Like early 2015, like my parents split up and I broke up with like my first girlfriend, and like a couple of other bad things happened, and I just played a lot of Apterus because it was something to do. But like it didn't affect me as much as I'm making it sound, to be totally honest. But
at the time,
exactly. I played a lot of Apterus anyway, and I guess I got a bit better, and then at some point I coded something in like Visual Basic because that was like the only language I knew at the time.
Apart from English.
I coded a thing to like scramble word lists and stuff, and I keep meaning to publish it online, but I need to make it more user friendly because right now it looks like dog shit. I've shared it with a few people, and they say it's helped, so that's good, I guess. But yeah, it basically, you could feed it a word list, and it would like go through them in a random order and scramble them, and then you sort of, depending on which button you press, you tell it I got it or I didn't get it, and then it would like keep the ones you didn't get in, and then at the end it would like build another text file with all the words that you'd missed, and then I could run it with that. And I just
seen that before.
A lot. I mean, I know people play like Anahack and shit, but I never used that. I never used Ziziver. I never used any of that crap. I just made my own. Just Apterus and my own shit. But yeah,
you need a degree to use that shit, mate. You do.
Anki is another one. I tried to use that. It didn't work, or I didn't particularly enjoy it. But yeah,
it's enjoying. You're right. Enjoyment is the key word.
I'll get into like not enjoyment and stuff, but yeah. So I'd be in my room, and this was sort of when I was slowly getting into the community and stuff as well, and I'd be like, because I could just sit in the Aptos room and be chatting to people, but also bashing out this word list thing, and you know, playing a few games of Aptos. So I'd be enjoying that. And then anyway, my series rolled around. I sent off the application like a bit before, but I think I sent off the application in like January 2015, and then I did the audition in March, and then I got the filming date in June, and then it was August, and I was filming, and I knew that Adam Curran would be my fourth game if I got that far, and I knew that like, yeah, that was basically it. I think I knew Lee Nixon would be my last game, but Lee was not particularly scary to me at the time. It was just getting through Adam Curran, really. And
He's a good letters player. He's a good letters player, Lee.
He's decent at the game, and I mean, he very nearly had me. And I also knew that Matty, because they were filming 6 episodes instead of the usual 5 on the Tuesday, because they were
younger.
I don't know. I guess they had to catch up or something.
Nick was younger.
Yeah, probably. Matty was basically Matty started off the filming block, and then I came in at episode 9. So the idea was Matty was going to Octo, and I would Octo right after him. And then I was I watched all of the first of 5 of Matty's games on the Monday, and it was all great. And then on Tuesday, which was when I was filming, I had 7 of my friends from school come in, as well as my mum and brother, which I'm really happy about. And it was quite nice to just like go to Matty and be like, yeah, lol, you have no friends. But
kick a man when he's down now, come on.
But true. Anyway, so I was
teenagers are harsh, you're cruel race. Teenagers, they are. They are.
Correct. Mm-hmm. But then, like, his 6th game, he lost to, like, some random guy from Bradford. And, like, I knew I was a lot better than Matty, but, like, I was just thinking, shit, if this guy can beat Matty, he can beat me.
Yeah.
And then this guy went on and won another game, and then the game before mine, he just completely crumbled, and he lost to a different guy. And, like, if I'd been thinking logically, I'd be like, okay, well, you know, I can definitely handle this guy. But I was just completely bricking it in the audience, like... I'd been so happy and confident until Matty lost, and then I was like, shit. I just felt really nervous. And then I came on and I played my first game, and I may have 13 maxed it and got 120 points, but I still, you know, I was so awkward and nervous and shit like that it just really didn't make for good TV, and like I couldn't even watch my episodes. I came off of this like hyper autistic teenager, and I know I am autistic, but
I don't think so. I saw some of your original run, maybe not your first episode, but I did, because I remember when you came back to Champion of Champions, I had remembered you, so I had seen at least 1 or 2 of your games. Probably takes 2 games for a face to stick, and you go, oh, I recognise that guy. He was on earlier in the series.
Maybe
so
I
must have seen some of you, because I remember thinking, I like this guy. He's an attacking player. I like it.
If you say so, it might have been my series final, but like. I'm just, like, my entire Octo run, I was so sort of awkward and nervous, and, like, a lot of the comments I was getting on the internet, and I know you should ignore them, were reflecting that. And I did get a lot of people being like, yeah, he's a good player, but, like, I think I let some of the, like, people shitting on me for, like there was someone who said like this was clearly the first time I'd been out of my parents' basement, and like I obviously like as much
you
as
think
I
that's funny now. That's funny now.
Yeah, well, no, I thought it was funny then, obviously, and I made my cover photo like that guy saying like he's such a socially inept little boffin. But the thing is, I fucking came across as a socially inept little boffin, and like I knew that in person I was not like that, but like I came across really badly in my run, and I just feel really bad for my opponents who like I was too busy like shitting myself to like actually talk to them properly, and like, you know.
It's funny how we come across, but isn't it? It is funny how we think we come across.
That's the thing, but you will have come across as decent crack, and I'm sure there's some people who will have like thought badly of you for like being a lot better than the opponent or whatever, but like I just had like my second opponent, Billy. He was a couple of years older than me. He was only 19 at the time, and I was 17 when I filmed. And like, you know, maybe he's not like the kind of person who I would have like been best mates with, but he's definitely the kind of person, like, there were a lot of people like him at school who like I got on well with, and I could chat to in like the common room or whatever. And then with Billy, I was too busy just like shitting it that like I think he had a really bad impression of me, and I don't blame him one bit because I came across so badly. So,
was that nerves? Yeah. Was that nerves, you mean?
I think it was mostly nerves, and even though I was like walloping all these people,
but is it a nerve? Is it that nervous awkwardness that we all have when we're first on
I think a little
on the telly? Like, we're all a bit awkward.
I didn't expect it to get to me. Yeah, I just didn't expect it to get to me.
We talked about before, like Elliot had that issue with the person who thought he was being arrogant, you know, and I didn't. None of the rest of us got that impression. So you can
I get what you're saying.
In the heat of the moment, you can kind of pick up wrong signals and think, oh, he's being, you know, you could be nervous and awkward, and someone thinks that's arrogance, you know.
Yeah,
or you look at someone like Dan. who we'll speak to later in the show.
Cool Dan.
Do you remember Dan? Do you remember Dan on
Cool
the show?
Dan McColm.
I remember
Yes.
thinking Dan was too cool for school. Like, Dan was so cool. He was just like, he was talking to whoever was it either Nick or was it maybe Jeff at the time? Was if like,
It was Nick.
yeah, whatever.
No, it was Nick.
Okay, boomer. Kind of be like, I'm the cool young one.
Yeah.
I'm the
I
cool
mean,
young
to be
one.
fair, he
Yeah,
kind of was.
I'm actually too cool to be here. It's like, but I was forced to be here.
Nick called
And
him Cool Dan, didn't he? He kept calling
Is that what
him
he
Cool
did?
Dan. Yeah, he kept
But
going,
he did.
Cool
But he
Dan.
had this.
Cool
But he had
Dan.
this
Yeah.
scowl on his
Yeah.
face. He had this teenage scowl on his face that I remember being impressed by, but thinking that could get him in trouble at the same time. Was it nerves, or was he really thinking I'm far too cool for this?
This shit just manifests itself in different ways.
Yeah.
But, like, I really didn't want to make that mistake, and that was my main goal for the series finals. Like, I'd had quite a tough Octa run. I had Adam Curran took me to a crucial and nearly beat me, because he was right behind on the buzzer. I had Brendan Duke in Game 6, took a round off me and was, like...
All familiar names, yeah.
Exactly, and when I went back to the hotel after the first day, having just won my first 3 games, I sort of, like, I had to sign something to say that, yeah, I'm here with Countdown, give me a free room. And I saw Brendan Duke's name, and I shat myself, and I sort of messaged, like, a bunch of mates and a bunch of Countdown friends and being like, please, like, get me all the stats on this guy that you can. And then, again, I looked at it and was like, again, I probably should beat him, but not only do I have to play Adam and Lee, but I have to fucking play Brendan as well. And yeah, obviously I did beat all 3 of them, but like, again, I think I just came across really badly. Like in Lee's game, I missed Eruptions as a 9, which is obviously not the kind of 9 I should be missing, but like even at that level, but I still...
There's nice easy 8s there, you see, isn't there? There's plenty of easy 8s.
Well, yeah, I
with
saw like
Eruptions. You were
routines
thinking,
and I just kind of VRE'd. But the thing is...
Or pointers or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, but like, it's... But I handled it really badly, because what I should have done and what I would have done in like Champion of Champions or whatever is just kind of laughed it off. But I don't think I actually threw my pen down, but it definitely looked like it. And like I'm still Facebook friends with Lee. No, but it makes me feel pretty bad, because like,
is this your
I'm
Cantona
Facebook friends
moment?
with Lee. And when I see like he goes on about going back on Countdown quite often, and I keep telling him like he should get back on, because he's definitely Octo worthy. Ditto Adam, ditto. I mean, this was already Brendan's second appearance, but I still think he should try and have another go, if nothing else. But like Lee, like I see all of Lee's mates talk about it, and they're all like, "Oh, lol, that kid was like just came across really badly or whatever, or like he shouldn't have been so like chucking his pen down and stuff." And like, yeah, like, you're completely right. I don't blame you for saying that, but I just fucking wish I hadn't been like that. Anyway, so that was my Octo run. I got 923. That was kind of the goal I was working for, because Jonathan Wynn, who'd filmed just before and was my first time in the studio, had got 922. So I was glad that I'd just beaten him.
That was a good series. I enjoyed that series. I watched most of that series. I was a big fan of Jonathan as well. So
Jonathan's a great guy. I mean,
I like attacking players. You see, I don't like players that are kind of play it safe. And if there's a 9 there, go for it. I like that.
Yeah. I like the way
it's like
Jonathan plays.
It's like a snooker player who goes for the long shot. Rather than play the safe. I like that.
More snooker analogies.
Snooker and Countdown are. Oh, they're twins.
Oh, yeah.
There's the politeness, the gentleman's conduct, the sort of,
it's darts.
The beers.
The smokes, the beers and the smokes, like
the after parties in the pub. I think darts is weirdly intertwined with Countdown, and I don't know why, but there's so many people from Countdown who are like weirdly into darts, and obviously
and
James
Robinson
is quite a big one. Snooker to an extent, but like. Yeah. If you look at like so many people talking about like these BDOs and these darts masters and stuff, and I don't really know what's going on, but then the likes of James Robinson, who has been like for years, like his only passions were Countdown and Huddersfield Town, and I guess quiz shows a bit, but
people say the numbers, right? People say the numbers and the mental arithmetic, but I've had little examples where like the number 71 is an important number in darts. What does 71 mean to you in darts?
I'll take your word for it, because I have no clue.
Treble 13, double 16. So when I see a 71 and I think I've 71 left,
half of me thinks, oh yeah, that's factorizable. It's not. Only in darts is it. It's two operations. It's that 39 plus the 32. But it's little things like that where I see a 71 and go, yeah, I've got it. No, I haven't got it. Shit. Because I can do that on a dartboard. I can't do this in Countdown. So certain little numbers that sort of mean things to you. Like, what's another one? Oh, there's another one where it's a factor of two operations rather than just one.
Yeah. You definitely do get it in Countdown. Like, when I see 923 as a numbers target, I think, hey, that's my octa run. I know that factorizes as 71 times 13. There's your 71 again. Because I worked that out.
Yeah.
So then I'll try and do that, whereas normally I'd see a 923 and you'd have a completely different approach depending on what your smalls are.
I have 931. I always just remember it's 7133. So yeah. It's little things that you sort of remember that you don't have to do the maths. You just remember it. And darts is very much like that. You don't even think about it. You just think 71 is treble 13, double 16. So it's maybe quite good for the maths that way in terms of just... I mean, even at Lincoln, when people going, how do you know how many was left? And I was like, I counted it.
Exactly.
You're better than me at the maths, and you're asking me how I counted that. It's just familiarity, I suppose.
There's
a bit of synergy between certain sports like that where
the thing is, if you play the game enough, if you play the game enough, then you're gonna want to. Lost my train of thought. If you play the game enough, you're gonna learn like the things that come up all the time. Like you can see 3 darts and you can immediately be like, okay, that's that number. Now you need like treble 70 billion or whatever. But,
there was a solve on the Facebook group there recently of 501, and I solved it by 3 times 167, which is the perfect 9 darter, which is the treble 20, treble 19 bull times 3. If that's the ultimate 9 darter. I don't think it's ever been done, is it?
I have no idea. I'm not that big into that.
Not in competitive play, anyway. No.
Fair enough. I enjoy watching the game, and I really enjoy playing it at Colin, like at the after parties and stuff. But I don't really follow it. But yeah.
Is it true, Tom, that were you one of the few people to have solved all 8 conundrums in your heat run, or am I completely misattributing that?
I guess I probably should have mentioned this. Like the big thing about my heats was that not only did I get all 8 conundrums, but I absolutely fucking smashed the record. Yeah. Like, this had previously been held by Harvey Freeman in, like, 1986. With, like...
I would have got this, but anyway, go on. Go on,
okay.
Yeah, keep going. Okay, well, I would have smashed your record if I'd have got mine.
Yeah, sure, whatever, dude. Like... He'd previously had this in 1986. This is a record that had been standing for 29 years when I broke it.
This is a long jump record. This is a long standing.
Yeah, and I fucking knocked it out of the park as well. Because like Harvey had like about 30 seconds total for all 8, and then
17.
Yeah, 17.75. If you talk to him after he always calls me Mr. 17.75. But the thing is, like, I got quite lucky because, like, every decent player, Damien will give at least, like, one complete bastard conundrum to. Yeah. And I was quite lucky that mine was skin tight in Game 5, which is like a false ing and a weird compound and that. But I'd recently been reading, like, recaps of random co-event games, like, shortly before I filmed. And I happened to see that one. So I got it on about 4 or 5 seconds, which was my slowest one.
It's a hard one to see. Yeah, it looks like thinking, and you're like, no, there's not another N. What is it? The
scramble was Stig, I think. But yeah, you see stuff like that. I got quite lucky that all the rest of them were like super easy insta buzzes, and that like I didn't have any opponents nick them off me. Because I mean, obviously, if Adam Curran, who was right behind me on Hilarious, if he'd nicked it off me, he would have won the game. But you know,
it's not an easy one either. Hilarious is not. It's not a conundrum that's come up for me before.
Let's face it.
Well, it depends how they're scrambled, I suppose, but it could be difficult, that one.
Actually, yeah, true. It was quite.
You know, when you see a H, my first thought with a H is where is the H?
Well,
H is usually a clue to the word. You know, you're like, where is it?
If you see a scramble like that,
or a bolt or something like that,
I guess, but. Honestly, with a word like hilarious, you see it scramble and you just kind of instantly get it.
Yeah, you saw it straight away. I would have had my word was canvassed that I messed up. I went advance. Sure. No. I knew as soon as I said it. I knew as soon as I said it. I was
wrong. That's why that record. You know, you might think 30 seconds being the record before was quite a long time. A big reason behind that has been there's been a lot of very quick conundrum players on the show before, but it's quite a select list just of people who've got all 8.
Who've got all 8. There's
so
not
exactly,
very
I think
even
now
before
with
time
Elliot
comes into it, there's not many people to choose from.
What do you miss, Callum?
That's why I was one of the only few, and I think even now with Elliot and that, there's only I was the 7th person to do it. I think we're up to about 10 now. Paul Erdenas did it, and I was really worried he'd break my record because he was on course for it, and then in Game 7 he took a long time to get his conundrum, so I got
I would
lucky skate.
I would have smashed your record because I was only, for my 7 I was about 11 seconds.
Sure.
So I would have had a good 6 seconds for that.
If
I'd got canvas, that is.
That's the thing, like, you need to
I would have had a good 6 seconds
to
to beat your record.
Yeah, but you didn't spot canvassed and you didn't win all
No, I
eight,
didn't
and-
spot canvas. That's the thing. It's so hard.
You could say similar for Luke. I think Luke Johnson.
Probably
Davies.
a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people.
He was very quick, but the thing is, a lot of people who are very quick, because they're so quick off the mark, they tend to misread the conundrum. So, like, Luke had
a red herring one like that. Yeah,
Luke had a couple like that where he buzzed in instantly, then realised he had it wrong, and he would have solved it correctly within 2 seconds. There
was at least 2. He would have had 10. He would have had 10:44 then.
Yeah,
he would have had at least 20 more points.
That doesn't mean you could say, oh well, these people like yourself and Luke, they would have beaten it. It doesn't really matter, because the fact is you didn't beat it because you didn't get them all right, and Tom did. So that's what
I gave my other
impressive as much as the speed, the accuracy.
I mentioned my most impressive record, Callum, and Tom wasn't impressed at all. So he was like, I have the record for the most 8s, and he was like, "Well, what's our record's that? That's not a record at all."
Wait, what? The most, like...
Yeah, you'd be like that top trumps card that is good for one of the lines.
I have the most consecutive 8s and the most 8s in a game.
It's quite an interesting.
I'm king
one,
of the
though,
8s. Yeah,
I'm king of the 8s. I played Tom Carey at Colin once and got an 8 in every round.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. This was back when I was still pretty bad. I think this was like 2014 or 15 or something, and I was not very good at Countdown, and I must have lost that game by like 30 points or something. But
Max Game got 78 points, the highest possible score in a 9-rounder where 9s aren't available.
Yeah, so that was fun.
King of the 8s. So I'll take you on at that as well, Paul.
Yeah, I'll fight you for that one, Carl. I'll definitely fight you for that one.
Just get me bloody popcorn out.
Yeah, so you had a good
I'm
run.
an octo champ. I'm an octo champ by another measure.
If you say so.
Champ.
Yeah, you can say that actually, because like if people, like, generally if you talk about being an octo champion on Countdowners, they ask you to define it anyway, so you just say it means I caught like a bunch of 8-letter words or some bullshit.
You know, like octopus, right? Well, octo champ. You know that word? Champ.
Yeah.
Should be fairly straightforward. Like, what, octo champ? What's that mean? Break it down.
Reminds me of this is probably not a very interesting anecdote for a wider listenership, but it amuses me. The yard next to us at work, there's this food company, and they had this new guy, and he had like a picking list of food to take, and one of the items in there was tricolour pasta. And,
tricolore.
Yeah, and he read that and he was like, I'm not sure what that product is. I know what penne pasta is. I know what fusilli is. So he rang the boss and he said, "Oh, boss, I've got this item here on my picking list. It says tricolour pasta. What is it?" And his boss just went, "Try means free," and hung up the phone.
Try means free.
Yeah.
Exactly. Work it out, you think. Like, sorry. Wow. We'll cut that out.
It's always good to double check, isn't it?
Yeah. So you smashed all the conundrums. You had some close games, but you came through. You got a decent overall octa total. But aside from all the statistics and the performance stuff, probably one of the longest enduring things that came out of your initial countdown stint was a nickname. We call it.
Yes, I called that it was going to be this.
Yeah.
Right, squeak, squeak, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sure if you've mentioned it already. I don't think you have actually called me Mouse yet on this, but maybe you have because I'm so desensitized. But that's just what people call me in Countdown. And the reason being, I look like a mouse, which is pretty simple, and it's usually spelt like the German way, like MAUS, because I'm German. But like,
That's what I said. There's a mouse house about this house. Yeah.
Correct. But like it used to be something longer, and it just got shortened to mouse. And basically,
Mausoleum?
This was fuck off. This was when I was first starting to befriend like Jen and Zate and like all the cool kids of the community. And there was in my 7th game, there was a really flat round I had once, and I didn't know. I did it a lot where I didn't know what the word meant, but a lot of the time I kind of played it safe and didn't go for like the more interesting ones if I could find like a word that people have heard of, because I was like, you come across as a bit of a dick on the TV if you're only declaring bullshit that you can't define. So I was like, okay. But then in my 7th game in this flat round, one of the words I saw was beaners. And I was like, hey, I like beans, that'll be a fun one to declare. And it turns out it's a racial slur against Mexicans, which I did not know. And I sort of declared it, and then Susie Dent was like, yeah, you shouldn't be saying that. And so,
beaners, like brown beans kind of thing. It's a skin colour racial slur.
Maybe it's because they like pick
kidney
beans or
beans.
something.
Kidney beans,
stereotypically.
chili
I don't
beans,
know.
I should say. Chili beans, yeah.
Yeah, there's just a lot of beans in Mexican
I don't
cuisine.
know why it's a stereotype, but like it is. And I was talking to my friend from Florida afterwards, and he was like, "Fucking hell, what are you doing?" But so yeah, that.
But we all play words like play words like poofters is the only available age, and you feel bad.
But it never is because four tops is
you
an
have to go
anagram.
for it. But the thing is, because it was.
I didn't know that, Callum. I didn't know that. I played poofters.
Nah, four tops is
I know
the
it's a
polite
word.
alternative there. But with beaners, A, I don't think there is an anagram, and B, you didn't know the definition, so.
No, but it was. It was a really flat round, that's the thing. Like, there was so many 7s I could have gone for in the beaners round. And I just picked it because I was like, hey, beans are fun. And it sounds like a plausible word. It's not like when I'm declaring shit like movies and crap that I would have no idea how to define. I just figured, like, people aren't going to say, like, oh, he's only swallowed the dictionary if I declare a normal-sounding word like beaners, I guess. But obviously,
he's only swallowed a racist diatribe.
Correct. The correct thing's an in-joke.
If only Jamie Wing had been the Walking Urban Dictionary now, that would have been... I might have been through then.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I ended up... people... Obviously as a joke, but I think it was Jen Ozate started calling me racist mouse. Because I looked like a mouse and I said a racial slur. And then
that
eventually, thankfully,
shit
just
sticks,
got
man.
to mouse.
That shit sticks.
Yeah, it sticks.
Yeah.
Well,
I do
One
like the
little
mouse
racist
nickname.
incident and people think it's a kind of thing,
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, like...
But you're young.
When-
You have all those years to prove people wrong. Now it's
Yeah, but it's like I've been in so many internet arguments and stuff when people are like throwing around like, oh, this person's clearly racist, and it's like, mate, I think I'm the authority here. I have said a racial slur on national TV. Yeah.
And that
I
got
don't know,
referred to in the Champion of Champions game with Sate, didn't it?
Oh, fucking
that
hell.
was
Yeah,
was
again,
part of
like-
what made that game so fun, that he got an in-joke on national telly.
It was because Damien was loving it. Like, Damien gets on pretty well with Zate, and like he was loving our banter as well. And like, obviously, the only reason Zate got back on the show so quickly was because he was drunk. Well, because he was messaging Damien when Damo was drunk once, and Damo was like, "Yeah, whatever, you can go back on the show." And he woke up and he was like, "Shit, has it only been 5 years? I thought it was longer." But I guess it's a good thing because I got to play Zate, and
and it's set a precedent. It's set a precedent for the rest of us who were maybe unlucky as well, that we can maybe use the Zate rules and get on a bit quicker, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, you're still not going to see, like...
Have to get Damien drunk then, is what you're saying, really.
Yeah, you know, give him enough beers and you'll be filming tomorrow.
Excellent. Even though really tomorrow? Well, the studio's free. Yeah, I've got the keys. Come on, let's go.
You heard it here first. Fucking hell.
It's
I'm
3 a.m.
It's
It's 3 a.m., Damien. Come on, man.
But yeah, my series semi-final, I played Tassia. I had a bad game. My numbers were not there. I just didn't show up. I didn't know the word outbraves. I was 8 points ahead going into the last letters. I was sort of looking at it. I saw Saboteur. I was like, fucking, that's a great 8. He's not going to get that. I've won. I spent the rest of the round looking for, like, other 8s that he might get, and I couldn't see any. I was like, okay, I've gone 16 ahead. Like, realistically, I've got this in the bag. And then, even when he declared a 9, I was like, oh, he's just making up some shit. And then suddenly I was 10 behind, and it was a whole different kettle of anuses. But, yeah. So that affected me for a while, and as I said, 2015 was quite a bad year for me. Like, the summer was good. The best things about the summer were, like, filming my Octa run, and meeting up with some friends and stuff. But, like,
You'll not forget that word again, then.
Well, it's Outbraves, it was. But, yeah, like, there's some stuff that just sticks with you. The conundrum as well, Panatella, because I was still had a chance. I was 10 behind, and I just didn't know the word.
Quite a tricky one, but it was a series thing.
It's a series semi-final. It should be a tricky one, to be fair. Like, I wanted it to be a tricky one, but it just wasn't one that suited me.
And he's a maths god as well, so I assume when you reach the numbers, then you realise...
Well, that's the thing, but I should have been better, and, like... To be fair, he only maxed 2 out of the 4 numbers rounds in that game, but I only maxed 1 of them. And, like, in the first numbers round, I picked one large, and the target was 999. And if I'd seen...
27?
Exactly. Fucking, I knew the 37 shit. If I'd remembered that, it was one that's really easy to solve with 37-27.
25, a 6 and a 2 usually kind of thing. That way.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was, and then a 3 and a 9 to get the 27. But, I just didn't see it, and he was only 1 away. But I think I thought I had it, and I tried to fudge it and messed it up. But, like, because I went 15 points ahead after 2 rounds, I was 15-0 up. I got Foulards in the first round, and then the second round, one of the losing quarterfinalists, Judy Bursford, in the studio, in the green room, had been telling me and Matthew about this word, like how she likes to read books and see the words in the books and learn them for Countdown. And she told us about the word étagère that she just found in a book. And then it came up...
Stages.
Yeah, exactly. But it came up in round 2.
Yeah.
And he missed it, and I got it. So I was 15 points ahead, and I remember hearing Usman Mirza from the audience saying he's won already. And then I fucked it up. But, yeah... It just wasn't to be, and it's disappointing, but shit happens.
That sounds like that sounds like a regret that you'd like to sort of put right.
Well, I mean, it was something, and it took me a long, long time to get over it, as a lot of things in my life do. Like, I generally regrets get to me a lot, and I take a while to get over stuff, but I think I redeemed myself with Champion of Champions.
Absolutely. Of course, yeah.
I feel if I'd lost to... Because, I mean, the Stephen game was a really good game between us, but I feel if I'd lost to him, like, that would have still been on my mind, because I never really avenged myself, but... I got lucky that, again, the conundrum was another buzzer race with me and Stephen, and I happened to win it.
Yeah, but, just a hedge, because Stephen was renowned at the time for being excellent on the conundrums. So
Stephen, this is Stephen Reed.
Stephen Reed, yeah. Brilliant player. So he's such an underappreciated player, in my opinion.
He's an underdog, and he's like, he's really good, but the things he's good at are very different to what most of the standard good players are good at. So depending on how the letters fall, you can wallop him or he can wallop you.
Yeah, that's why I think
plausibly.
Sometimes people see him playing, like someone like yourself or me or Jack or whoever, and it's a fairly standardish game, and we might beat him by 20 or 30 points, and people think, he's not really at that level. But you can never write him off, because he's got such a unique skill set. Like I've said before, I think he is the best one large and 2 large player.
Yeah.
As well. People think, he's not really a great numbers player like the other top players, because he's not very good at 6 small and 4 large.
Man. I've seen the stats. Like when you look at the stats, he is up there.
Well, it's because he doesn't pick 6 small or 4 large that people think, he must not be a great numbers player. But at 1 large and 2 large, he's the best. I think he's number 1.
Very high. I think he is. He's up there. He's 80-odd% for both, is he
and
not?
And his conundrums are lightning quick. They certainly were at the time, because he'd just done Ascension and he just retained that information so well. And he's just a cracking lad, and he's so witty. Like the speed of wit you get from him.
He's a wonderful guy.
Incredible.
He was, the thing he does when you play him in Apteros or co-events, and then he'll come up with a bullshit word like a 7 or an 8 or a 9.
Yeah.
That's just like, and he'll have a lead in like Joe Brand.
And he'll
but
have a
funnier.
definition for it.
Joe
yeah.
Brands were bloody awful, weren't they? Oh, they were.
Well, they always
imagine
are.
that,
oh,
but
they're
really
so
good.
bad.
Yeah, she's been doing
Yeah,
the
but
same shit for decades. Just get used
Steven
to it.
seems to be a very, very sharp cookie. I mean, that's for me. That's always one of the most tangible.
He was doing that on set. He was
sort of
doing that in the challenges chair.
aspects
Yeah.
of intelligence. When
And
you,
he's-
it's you know someone's intelligent when they're that funny, when they're sharp.
And yeah,
And
it's
he can
like
just-
improvisational humour as well. You could just give him 2 random, seemingly unconnected topics, and within 30 seconds he'd have a coherent joke that makes
Yeah.
reference to both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Anyway,
Wonderful man.
Stephen Reed
Turned
fan
into
club.
the Stephen Reed Appreciation Society. now.
Absolute legend
Sad.
as well. And also
SRPS.
on the 3 days of Champion of Champions, like, he's not the first person you would think of in terms of like making the party atmosphere really, really good, but he was right up there. He was there the whole 3 days, even though I beat him on day 1 and knocked him out of the competition. He was there the whole time, and he was loving it with the rest of us, and he really, really added so much to the atmosphere.
Yeah,
Mad
looking forward
respect
to
for that man.
someone I'd like to meet now. Actually, looking forward to. He's one of the few that I sort of haven't. One of the few major players that I haven't met.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
I
a
mean,
great guy.
he was a weird one because he never really came to. I like how we're basically doing like the Stephen Reed podcast guest without Stephen.
Yeah.
We'll have him on to defend himself
I don't think he doesn't need to defend himself. We're all bigging him up.
Yeah,
from all this flattery.
yeah, like you never really had anyone on Apteros that much who was a complete unknown. I know you get that all the time now, and it's one of the things I think Apteros is going downhill. But like back in the day, there were very few people who were complete unknowns to everyone, and this Stephen Reed guy was, and then he just turned up to like I think the first leads that Callum hosted, and he was like 10th or something,
Yeah.
and then he won his second ever event at
Yeah.
Kings Lynn.
I think didn't he win 2 or 3 out of his first 5 events or something stupid?
Something
Because
like
he won
that.
Manchester
Yeah.
and Birmingham, and yeah, he was.
Yeah. He won a lot
Yeah.
of like right at the start, and obviously he's a top player. He's one of the greats, and
Yeah.
you'd expect that from him. But yeah, he just sort of appeared and got really, really, really into the community really, really quickly. And yeah, I just have so much respect for that man. I mean,
Yep.
you must have been watching on Only Connect as well, him and Andy and Sam. But like,
Oh, what a team they were!
Good team.
Their skills just complemented each other so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great team.
Yeah, they did. They did the whole community proud. Now they did.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes, I remember after you played him, I still say to this day that your 2 games at Champion of Champions are the best 2 games I've seen from the audience. Not just because of any intrinsic quality in the game itself, but just the atmosphere and the fun that was evident both
Yeah.
from on set and from within the audience.
and without wanting to sound like a complete dick, like I would agree with that.
Yeah. So obviously, I just remember just laughing with the whole audience throughout your whole game with Zarte, added with the tension, obviously, of knowing that he was potentially on for the record. And then probably my favourite countdown studio moment is after you'd just beaten Stephen, singing Ilkley Bar Tat with your mum.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That was it was surreal.
You want
It
to
was
give us a little version there now,
it
lads?
was like I'm singing the Yorkshire anthem with Tom Carey's mum in the countdown
Who
studio.
is
Yeah.
100% German.
Yeah,
Is she?
that's it. Sort of took me by surprise, but she just really passionately joined in because you could tell obviously she was really proud of you and really happy.
Yeah.
But
How do you
she
say
latched on to this celebration of Yorkshire
How do you
pride.
say A up?
Well, that's yeah. She's a very proud Yorkshire woman, and she's obviously she doesn't have I mean, she has a really weird accent because there's German, there's Irish in there because she lived in Ireland for a few years, and in Killarney if you're interested. And
Right,
yeah,
right.
now she's been in
Tourist central, really.
yeah.
For the southwest, isn't it? Really, yeah.
Yeah, and she's been in Yorkshire now, and she was in the Midlands before, so she's got this really weird accent mix, but she is so patriotic towards Yorkshire. It's a beautiful thing. It's probably where I get it.
Contagion. You're not allowed to move in there. It's one of those you're a blow in unless you're fully in.
Yeah.
We do accept.
You renounce your other citizenships.
Oh
and
yeah, we do
declare-
accept New Yorkshiremen. We're
Do you have to hate Lancs? Do you have to hate Lancashire?
Yeah.
It
Do you have
helps.
to, is that part of the entrance exam?
We've fully accepted James Rowan into our and Fred.
That's
Fred.
true, and he's from like the south.
Yeah, James and Fred are now honorary Yorkshiremen. So,
but our group is class because it's made up of a strong contingent of Yorkshire and a strong contingent of Lancashire, and then
like
and then an Irish and where's Fiona from?
The south.
The south.
Sorry, down south.
Down south,
It's all bloody London.
It's
Once
London.
you get south of like Peterborough, it's all London.
Yeah, that's the regions of the UK, isn't it?
It's
Yorkshire, Badlands, and London.
But I've said this before. I think
much.
it's probably the most. I've probably said this every podcast, Colin. But you guys are so lucky geographically. When you see the countdown credits, they have a big flashing dot over Manchester. You see that? There's a map. You ever see that? There's a big map that shows you.
Okay, no, I've
sort
not
of
noticed that.
this is where it broadcasts from, and it's
What, in Salford,
and all us, and all us sort of foreigners. We look at that, and we're with even before COVID, we looked at that with extreme jealousy. You just had to jump in your car or take a short train journey.
I'm really lucky.
For Luke's run in the series finals most recently, I got a plane from Dublin. I'd been in Dublin for the event, and I flew from Dublin, rather than flying back to Leeds Bradford, I flew to Manchester and got a taxi straight to Media City.
That's brilliant.
You must have been flush that month then, were you?
Yeah, well, obviously I didn't know that was going to be the date, so I had to pay to reschedule my flight to make the finals in time. I think it cost me like 70 quid or something daft.
Right.
That was my dedication to support Luke and James. Man.
You were doing Book of Kells and all that weekend in Dublin, weren't you?
Yeah. Anyway, so that was one of the songs that we got for you in the audience was the Ilkamore Bartat. The other one, Tom, was He Sleeps in a Bush, He Sleeps in a Bush. Do you want to tell us the story behind that?
I should have.
There's so much to go through with you. I've really wanted to have you on as a guest in this podcast. There's like so much folklore around Thomas Carey.
It's 4:30 in the morning, folks. Now we're still here. It's we're going to be right here till the end. Stay with us.
So tell us about He Sleeps in a Bush, Tom.
I mean, yeah, okay. I guess my legacy in Countdown is just like spreading dumb bullshit. But if it's dumb bullshit that can make people laugh and make people enjoy the game and the community more, then like I'm happy that it's that. So yeah, the bush thing. So first of all, the chant goes, "He sleeps in a bush. He sleeps in a bush. Thomas Carey, he sleeps in a bush." And if, like Rachel Riley, when the audience were singing that before my game with Stephen started, if, like Rachel Riley, you're confused as to why that's a thing, Rachel asked Zate, who was in the audience, and this delayed filming for like 10 minutes while he told the story to everyone in the audience, and people were just laughing about it, like... Fucking Jay, the floor manager, man. Love that dude, by the way. Great guy.
Oh, what a guy,
anyway,
yeah.
So, basically, I'll take you back to a distant, faraway land called Leeds. It's 2018. Countdown in Leeds 2018 in April. And... So, because it's Leeds and I live a 20-minute train journey away from Leeds, yeah, as I was saying before, I'm lucky that I can take day trips to the Countdown studio as well. On the cheapo train as well, I can go Bingley to Bradford, walk from Forster Square to Interchange to Manchester Victoria, and then to Salford Crescent and walk it from there. But anyway, Leeds, 20-minute train journey from Bingley, easy stuff. So I was obviously... It's a good place to live because, like, on one end, like, I can be up in the moors, like, pretty quickly, but on the other end, I'm, like, a 20-minute walk from Bingley train station, from which it's another 20 minutes to Leeds, from which you can get anywhere. Okay, this has got off track. Leeds. Fucking Leeds. So I was planning to just do Countdown in Leeds as a day trip, because obviously fuck paying for a hotel or an Airbnb or whatever if it's so close. And... However, on the Friday beforehand, a few people, including like Zate and Dan and Steve, were already in the Travelodge in Leeds, and I had just been dumped at the time by my second girlfriend, and like
you had
literally
two girlfriends at the time.
What? Fuck you.
You had two girlfriends at the time. See, well, that's why she dumped you, isn't it? That's why she dumped you, like.
Ah, shit, that's where I was going wrong, yeah. Yeah, so...
Polygamous relationships, come on now.
Hey, it's a growing trend.
That's
and,
just selfish and greedy, that is now.
It works for some people. So yeah, I'd literally been dumped at about 3 p.m. on the Friday, and I was trying to take my mind off it because there was better things to do than like climb up onto the roof of my house and wail Sufjan Stevens songs at the world. So I got on the train to Leeds and just like hung out on the Vicar Lane Travelodge with Zate and Dan and Steve, and I think there was someone else, but I can't remember. Anyway, so we're sat in. They have like a little bar in the Travelodge, and we're all sat in the bar and just chatting and having a good time. And then the night just gets later and later, and people go to sleep. And I'm hanging out with Zate and Dan for a bit. Zate and Dan are sharing a hotel room, by the way, like a 2-person Travelodge room. And obviously, because Zate is in a wheelchair, it's one of those like disabled rooms. I've obviously room shared with Zate many a time, but yeah, anyway, so we keep chatting, and at like maybe 11 p.m. Zate goes off to sleep, and then that's also around the time I need to get my last train back to Bingley, so I'm sort of telling Dan, like, it's time for my last train, I gotta bounce, see ya, and Dan's like, nah, stay with us, just chill on the floor in the Travelodge, and I've done this kind of thing loads of times, so I'm like, well, if you're sure, I might as well, and I sort of go and check with Zate if it's cool, and he's like, yeah, fine, whatever. So I end up staying in the bar with Dan a bit more, and we talk a lot of shit. And this is like, I wasn't that friendly with Dan beforehand. I guess we just never really hung out. So this was like, I'm pretty close with him now, but like, this was pretty much the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talk a lot of shit about everything, and it's a wonderful time. And the night drags on and on. We have some wine. I have a lot of London Prides, and I'm getting a lot more drunk, and obviously I'm drinking a lot of alcohol to try and take my mind off the whole girlfriend thing. And I was, there was this woman behind the bar like all evening who was sort of getting more and more annoyed by my antics. Like, I'm also quite autistic, and it comes out when I'm drunk, and she can tell. Like, I'm doing little things which are annoying. And by the way, I don't endorse doing this. I fully accept that I was a complete dick all night. And Pat from Travelodge in Vicar Lane, you are an absolute saint.
Yeah, you have your apology years later now. Like, you have it. There you go.
Hey, I fucking gave her a 5-star review in which I name dropped her, but didn't mention all the dumb bullshit she put up with.
There you go. Recompense.
But yeah, anyway, so I'm doing like little stupid things like ripping up beer mats and then going up to the bar and you know all those like those drip trays for the alcohol, like those rubber things. I'm just stacking them and shit like that. Like it's only minor stuff, but it's just kind of annoying.
People have been thrown out of pubs for less now. They have at that time of night. There could be
it was only me and Dan in the bar. Like, it was 2 a.m. in a Travelodge bar. It was only the two of us talking shit.
Right, yeah.
Like, Dan had his laptop out and we were looking at, like, Brazilian football statistics or whatever. But yeah, so this is...
Sexy.
Anyway, it's about 2 in the morning and the bartender, like, she goes off for the night. And at some point I decided it's a good idea to start pulling my own pints, because there's no one there, and I have 2 or 3 of like half pints of mostly Bud Light foam, and I'm drinking those, and then at some point,
from the wrong side of the bar, yeah,
and at some point I get spotted by this same woman through the CCTV. And she makes me pay full price for like half a pint of Bud Light foam, which again completely acceptable. So I'm doing that. She doesn't kick me out. She obviously is pissed off with me, but like I pay the £3.80 for like my foam, and I want to buy some fucking foam. And she's good with it.
Do you want to buy some foam?
Yeah, there we go. I can't do the accent very well. So yeah, this anyway, the night goes on and on. And then at some point, Dan and I head off to bed in the room. Zate's obviously long asleep, and I'm standing. You know, Dan gets in the other bed. I'm about to lie on the floor, but I go to the toilet first. I obviously have a lot of alcohol to piss out, but because it's a disabled room, there's the red cord, and I sort of pull that.
Oh yeah. Oh, don't pull the red cord.
Yeah. Exactly.
You did the IT crowd thing, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm disabled. Well, I mean, it's funny you should mention that, but like, as soon as I do that, I realise, shit, I'm not meant to be here. Like, because I don't want to get Zate and Dan kicked out of their room, right? Like, it's a 2-person room; they shouldn't be having me, and they're obviously, I'm relying on their generosity to let me in. So I just kind of walk out the room. I'm like, well, if I'm not here, it's just 2 guys asleep, and you know, it'll be fine. And that's basically what happened. And if you ask Zate, like, his perspective is he got woken up saying someone had pulled the cord, nothing had happened, there was no one there, everything's fine, goes back to sleep, wakes up the next morning, I'm still not here, what the fuck happened? So my take on it, well, that's the thing. So I just walk out the room. I walk out the Travelodge. I'm like, I'm in Leeds now, it's 3 in the morning or something. I have nothing better to do and I'm pissed as a skunk, so I just run around Leeds city centre for 30 minutes and then find the Travelodge again and go back in. And like, okay, great, I've got the room card, everything will be fine. I go back into the Travelodge, the same woman from behind the bar is at the fucking reception desk. I'm about to go into the bit where the rooms are, and she stops me and she's like, what's your room number? And I tell her Zate and Dan's room number. And she's like, no, that's the guy in the orange shirt and the guy in the wheelchair. And I don't remember saying this at all, but in my drunken state, I apparently said, I'm the guy in the wheelchair.
Well stood up.
Oh, that's David Brent-esque, that, isn't it?
Yeah, so surprisingly, I did not get let back into the room.
Did you make the local papers?
No, I didn't really. I don't usually tell this shit to the paper. I should have done, but like,
impersonating the disabled. Like, I'm sure that's a major crime.
Well, I mean, I've got the racism thing on my head. It's just a series of PR disasters. My countdown history. But yeah, like basically, I figure, well, it's not too far from the venue. It's only in Burley. I could probably walk it in like well under an hour if I was sober, but it takes me like an hour and a half because I'm pissed on my tree. And yeah. I just spend that night, it's like 4 in the morning by this point, and I'm just walking through Leeds city centre, eventually find my way to, like, the countdown venue in Burley at, like, 5:30 in the morning or something, and then there's a bush outside, and I just sleep in it, and then when Callum goes to set up, I get discovered, or at least I think I've woken up by this point and gone into the venue.
Yeah, I remember that because that year, the previous year, I'd put on the event information a doors open time.
What about the bushes?
I think it was like 10 a.m. and I got there half an hour before the doors open time, just in case they'd opened up early, because I wanted to be straight in, you know, get set up. And when I arrived there were already like 7 people there. So I thought,
I was one of them. I remember standing in the car
thinking,
park.
what is it people don't understand about the words doors open? So this year I had very clearly put on the thing, do not arrive before the doors open time. The doors open time is not the start of the event, it is the time that the doors open. Hence, if you arrive before then, the doors will be shut. Do not get here before that time. So when I got here before that time, there was no one stood outside. I thought, brilliant. And then I got inside, and Tom was there. And that's when I got the whole story. And it was quite a surprise for me. But then,
yeah, I think it was a surprise for everyone.
Yeah,
it was a surprise for Zate and Dan, who sort of woke up in the morning and were like, "Shit, wasn't Mouse meant to be staying with us?"
Yeah,
and then like I think Zate messaged me. I'll put something on my Facebook, and I commented something along the lines of, "It's all good. I'm at the venue. You don't need to worry." And Zate was like, "I am still pretty worried."
Yeah, because I saw a photo on Facebook that morning of a picture of you outside the venue saying, "Not too early, right?" or something, and it was dark in the picture.
Oh yeah, this was a joke.
And I thought, oh, it was uploaded at a silly time in the morning, but I thought, oh, you must have on your way around Leeds the last night stopped by the venue and got a picture, you know, at night.
Yeah.
And uploaded it in the morning. I didn't realise it was uploaded as you took it.
Before the sun was quite up.
Yeah, but then and I promise this is the last time I will prompt you to tell a very embarrassing story about yourself, Tom. But that isn't actually.
You did that with relish, Callum. You enjoyed that.
I was about to say the Bristol thing myself, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say that's not the earliest you've actually arrived to a co-event before, is it?
Well, the joke was, and like just to finish off the Bush thing, like the woman behind the bar was like still there. The second night, like the same people were staying at the Travelodge. I wasn't, because Nathan Pace very kindly drove me to Leeds Station, and I got a train home. And some lad on the train gave me a can of Kronenberg, which I really didn't need at the time. But anyway, like, apparently in the Travelodge, like, the woman behind the bar was saying, like, she really wanted to, like, kick Zate and Dan out, but, like, I was apparently really polite about everything. Like, I was a complete nuisance, but, like, I was so polite to her. Like, I just kind of, like, happily accepted the fact that I wasn't getting back in the room and just walked out.
You
so she
disarmed
was
her.
like...
Yeah, you didn't kick off. You just accepted. Yeah,
she
Disarmingly
said that had I
polite,
kicked
yeah.
off, she would have kicked, like, Zate and Dan out, but luckily I was, at least, despite being a complete dickhead, like, at least I wasn't a rude dickhead. So that's the Bush thing, and then... Yeah, and apparently the next night Wes Jardine was like trying to pick that woman up. Anyway, so
But that's
yeah,
your
the
that's your
Bristol thing.
reputation as I know it, as I joined this year. That seems to be that's filled in a few blanks for me.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
I imagine our audience would enjoy that. I mean, if
Yeah.
anyone
That's why I wanted
fancies
to ask
coming along to these co-events and sleeping in a bush.
That's why I wanted
It's,
to
I
ask you
mean,
about these stories. It's not just to embarrass you. I think it's because
No,
there are a lot of
it's
people
good,
who have
and I
heard the
don't mind.
legend of Thomas Carey and the stories, but they might not know the details. So I think it's good while we've got you here to get it on record.
It's what I'm known for, and my whole kind of brand is wacky bullshit at this point, so I might as well, like, come clean about it. And I like, you know, I tell the Bush story so many times. It's my go-to when you're, like, going around a circle and telling interesting stories and stuff. That's my go-to, just because, like, I think it captures, for people who don't know, like, how stupid co-events are, it captures that.
Yeah.
But also it captures, like, there's so many things about it that just make it, like... It's a tale of drunken idiocy.
Formative
It's
years
formative,
as well.
and
I
it's
mean,
my own
that's
brand.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
And
if you were
that
to,
should be attractive. I hope that's attractive to other people maybe thinking of coming to their first co-event. There's a bit of crack. It's not just nerdy games of words and numbers.
You don't have to sleep
there's
in
a
a
load
bus.
of crack. And
Yeah,
as an
can.
Irishman who loves the crack, I come mainly for the crack. The words
Yeah,
and
you
and
should,
numbers game
definitely.
are a bonus for me.
Yeah, exactly,
You know,
like-
and that's the attractive part of the community, and I
Co-events.
hope people thinking of coming to their first event, whenever we
Yeah.
get them back up and running, that helps them maybe come along. It's like there is a bit of crack. You can have great experiences that you'll be talking about years later.
It's a great bunch of people. The bush sleeping is optional, and but like it's really worth doing.
Yeah,
just
just book a
because
room.
you
It's
get
easier.
I mean, there's a lot more debauched stories I could tell, but won't, because this is.
We haven't got the time. We're actually literally running out of tape.
Wait
this
until
was-
we get Eddie Anus on the show.
If this was 1979, the tape machine would be telling us now.
Right.
You know, there's no more tape left. You've used
But
the
I
largest
feel
tape
I have to tell the thing
have.
that Callum just alluded to. So
Yeah.
this was also early 2018. This was Bristol, and I don't know why, but like, there's not much to this one, but like, I just thought the entire time that the date for Countdown in Bristol was the 17th of February 2018, and you know, I plan a lot of things around it. This was when I was still being considered for University Challenge. I was my college team's captain at that point, but we weren't sure whether we were going to get on the show, and I had to keep that. That was one of the recording dates I had to keep free in case I got on, so I only signed up after I found out that I hadn't got onto University Challenge, and I basically was like, yeah, okay, this is fine, I'll just go then. And I got up at like 4:30 that morning. I took the train from Cambridge to Birmingham. I took the train from Birmingham to Bristol. This is a stupid route, but it was the route I could get for free because I used to have a free train pass on cross country. And then I rock up at Bristol. I get a bit lost in Bristol, but I find my way to the venue easily enough. I show up at the Sportsman Bar just before 11, which is when the thing's meant to start. I try and open it, and it's locked. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I sort of knock, and no one seems to be answering, and the bar seems to be dead. Like, it says it opens at 12, but they'd open it early for co-events, right? So I open my phone to, like, get on Facebook and message the page, like, hey, I'm here, like, can someone let me in or whatever? And I go on the Countdown in Bristol page, and I see, like, starts on like the 24th of February or like starts in a week's time or whatever and shit. So yeah, I showed up to fucking Bristol a week early after a 6-hour or 5-hour something train journey. Yeah. Thankfully, it didn't cost me anything other than like a day of time, but it was all right. I just wandered around. I fucking love Bristol as a city, so I just wandered around a bit and then got the train back to Cambridge. But yeah, that was a thing that happened, and then annoyingly, I had to pull out because I'd planned like a couple of my mates from home did their birthday thing the following week. And I think I might have even, like, been part of the reason why it was that week, because I told them, like, I can't make the previous week because I've got, like, this countdown thing. But obviously, now it was that week and I couldn't move it, so I had to miss Bristol for it, which, nah, shit happens. But yeah. So I sort of upload this picture to the Facebook groups, with just, like, me outside the venue saying, like, are you shitting me? I thought it was today. And then after people realised that I'd actually turned up to the event a week early. Like, yeah, I got some stuff. And then, yeah, I did. I don't remember. Well, I vaguely remember doing this for the Leeds one, but because I showed up to the venue like 4 hours early, I just posted a picture of me outside the venue, like, lol, I can't believe I turned up to another venue early or something stupid. But I don't really remember doing that. I remember finding a can of dark fruits unopened on the wall and drinking that before I passed out in the bush. But,
at least it was unopened. Yeah. I was going to say
it was unopened. Yeah, I have some standards. Yeah. Not many, but
that's some more insights into the madness of the legend of Thomas Carey.
That's my life, and it's been 2 years since the bush and since the turning up to Bristol, and nothing's really changed. I'm still doing a bunch of dumb bullshit.
Yeah. Well, there was so much more stuff. Like, you're such a colourful character. Like, I've got notes here about the tea cozy and turning up to Wolverhampton last year with a broken leg, and you're hosting up to Blackpool final last year, which made it. There's so much more stuff we could talk to you about. We definitely need to get you back on at some point.
He's going to be back on. I'd say we'll get you back on with someone else for the crack some other time.
Yeah, for sure.
I can tell you dumb shite.
If we need a regular guest, I think you're right up there on the list. Well, yeah, so we're going to get Dan in soon, who's obviously had some first-hand experience of coronavirus, and we're going to have your friend Emily in as well to tell us about the perspective from China. But before we get onto the serious stuff, before we get into the serious stuff, we'll just quickly round off your interview because we are out of time. Just recently you've absolutely smashed Manchester. It was one of the best one-day COVID performances I've seen, and it was so great to see, from someone who's, a friend of you and really admires you and likes you and respects you, to see you finally really putting in a dominant performance like that of the day, because it's been deserved for so long, and I think it's been coming for so long. Post. So yeah, so
you got my address as well. Have you there now?
Because obviously you won Waterford before, but that was not really an event on the scale of Manchester.
That was only beating Irish people apparently.
So so just before we go, what does the countdown future hold for Tom Carey?
I mean, I don't think it's been written, and I don't really think you can say. Like, I fully plan to stay and go to as many events as I can, and one of the most important things when I do get a job is something where I can have Saturdays off, so I can just travel around the country, and like I know how to travel cheaply, and I can just keep turning up to all these events, and because obviously Countdown's been with me for like all my life since before puberty. Like, it's gonna stay. I'm gonna keep turning up to these things, and I can't imagine I'll ever really like massively try hard again and like do all these word lists and shit. But like, I'll keep practicing a bit on Apterus, and like, a lot of the time. I mean, Manchester I hadn't played for a while, and I fucking smashed it. So
maybe that's part of the secret. Maybe that's part of the secret. Just take a chill and come back stronger, kind of thing each time.
A lot of the time, it's not correlated to how much you practice, and if it is, it might even be negative. But like, Waterford felt like more of a holiday, to be honest. It was a really well-run event. This is the first Waterford I'm talking about. Like, I didn't go to the other two, but it was just after my first year of uni, and I kind of needed a break, and I somehow managed to get a ferry from Holyhead to Dublin for a tenner return. So
Nice.
I took a train to Holyhead, got the ferry to Dublin. Thankfully, got a lift down from Dublin. What attracted me to Waterford, the other thing about me is that I'm a massive cheapskate. What attracted me to Waterford was the fact that he was advertising the event, 2 nights accommodation, and like all your meals for the entire time was €25.
That's
and
very
I sort
good,
of,
isn't it?
I remember looking at that in the pub after
That's
some
a
other
cheap
event.
weekend, like.
And
Yeah.
thinking, like, shit, that's a cheap holiday. Especially since I managed to get travel through a combination of free trains and someone giving me a lift. I got travel for a tenner return with the
That was
ferry.
one of my 4 trains at Lincoln kind of thing was 25 quid, really. So yeah.
Exactly. Like, I've done events for a lot more money in the past, and Waterford was one of the cheaper ones. I mean, I think the most expensive part of because I stayed Friday to Monday and I stayed a night at Eddie's house as well. But I think the most expensive part of Waterford was when Eddie and I went to fucking Temple Bar.
And you blew all your
like-
savings, yeah.
Exactly. That was a tourist trap and a half. And then, like,
It is, yeah.
the-
Dublin
the-
folk don't go near it really unless there's tourists in town, unless the tourists kind of want to go there.
it was
You
nice.
know.
And
Yeah,
then
of course you have to go. You have to go once, but yeah, you wouldn't.
We went
You wouldn't want to be trying to get drunk there. It's quite expensive.
exactly.
You know, 100
Well,
quid
we-
wouldn't be long going. Like,
Yeah, definitely. But like we went to like this sort of rural Irish pub in Waterford like after the events, and like he put on a great show. He put on a lot of like stuff for us to do.
Cade Mila was there the famous Irish welcome?
If that's what it is, sure.
Yeah,
I
100,000
sadly-
welcomes. It means Cade Mila 100,000
Ah.
welcomes.
There we go. Got some Irish on the podcast, but yeah, like we had.
Well,
we
you can
did some
expect
cool
the same
and
when you
fun.
come to Dublin. Like I say, Irish people do like to welcome you.
I am gonna do a Dublin. I've wanted to do
Yeah.
a Dublin for a long
Let's hope-
time, and
let's
like,
hope it happens.
Hopefully this year. Yeah,
Let's hope
I hope so.
we're looking at the 3rd week of August at the moment. Let's hope it happens.
Well, yeah, as we
I-
were saying
Oh,
earlier,
shit.
Tom is sort of the co-event player in form, so he's the one to look out for when things
He
get
is.
back to normal.
Yeah.
To continue the
If it's
snooker
the-
analogies, he's sort of like the Judd Trump of the countdown scene at the moment. So hopefully we'll be back on the road by Dublin time, and hopefully
Once
Tom
again,
can
I'll
be
take your
there.
word for it.
Well, it's
We'll
been
see.
fabulous. Been fabulous talking to you, Tom. It's been really great. I think it's been hopefully it's been a little bit of relief from COVID. I know it has from myself. It's good to take your mind off it for a little while and talk about other stuff. Talk about happier times. But
Definitely.
you're going to stay with us, so thanks very much for your involvement.
Yeah.
And
And
we'll
congratulations
Yeah,
on your Manchester win. That was really an excellent performance.
Stick around. We'll get some comments
Oh,
later
I'll
on
definitely
from the
stick
guests.
around. As I say, I'm planning to do pretty much every event. It was annoying because like the start of the year lined up perfectly for me with like nothing. I had something on pretty much every weekend till the end of June, and nothing clashed with each other. And obviously that's all been wiped. But yeah, I plan to go to like every event that doesn't clash with something for the foreseeable future. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be sticking around.
Fingers
if you pop up
crossed.
to events, I'll see you in person. If not, then I'll just be like on the general internet bubble. But yeah, it's been wonderful.
We'll not be too
like
far away.
being on this thing. Yeah, cheers for having me. I hope my tales of like being an idiot has been heartwarming to some of you, and yeah.
Always
An
is.
inspiration.
Yeah.
An
Yeah, it's
inspiration.
And it's
Always
like,
great talking to you, Tom. Always.
Yeah, cheers. The thing is, I won Manchester. Like my final anecdote, after smashing everyone at Manchester recently, I almost didn't turn up to Manchester. I had 5 separate alarms set for like various times that started with a 6, just because I wanted to hang around in Manchester for a bit. I think the event started at like 11 or something, and like my standard route is Bingley to Bradford to Manchester, as I was saying. But I managed to snooze all of them and just like keep sleeping through, and then I woke up naturally at 9:08, and I'm thinking, shit, do I even have enough time? And thankfully my mum was available to give me a lift down to Bingley Station, and I just about managed to get into Manchester Victoria like 6 minutes after the event was meant to start. So
Good
I
old
could
mums.
do it on time.
Good old mums. Behind every great countdown champion,
Exactly,
there's a
like-
solid mum.
I've mentioned it before. My mum's a fucking legend.
So shout out for all
one day-
the mums. We just had Mother's Day past there, so shout out
Oh
for
yeah,
all
shit,
the
that
mums.
was a whole thing.
They're important.
Yeah.
I gave her the box of Thorntons that I won at Manchester as a birthday present. So
There you go. That's an inspiration. That's what you do. If you want to be a countdown champion, give away your sweeties to your mum.
exactly.
That is such a Thomas Carey thing to do.
Okay, so thanks very much, Tom. That was great. So you're going to stick around for a little bit. So we're going to talk to a friend of yours, Emily, all the way from China.
Yeah, so we're joined here today by Emily, who's speaking to us from China, and
Hello.
she's going to give us a
Hi, Emily.
hello, Emily. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. I know it's a silly
the show.
time in the morning for you over there.
Well, my sleeping pattern is very disturbed thanks to the, self-quarantine and everything, so...
Right.
You're not alone there. I think we're all sharing that.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us, and we've got you on because there's not many people within this community who can tell us how this is perceived from other parts in the world. Obviously, it's a global issue at the moment. We're very Britain and at least Eurocentric, so it'll be nice to hear from some other perspectives. So, what's your take on the whole situation at the moment?
Yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, like just minutes before this podcast, I received a text on my UK cell phone number that's from NHS. It said, "New rules, everyone should stay home now." I was like, yeah, you're like 3 months too late on that.
Yeah, the text message is just going out today. It's the 24th of March when we're recording this, so I imagine everyone listening to this will have that text message in their inbox.
And that's the general impression that you're getting in China. That's what took you so long.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, like months ago we've warned like everyone, like this thing is serious, and everyone's like, nah, it will be fine. And now it's like, okay, maybe it's not that fine, but we can manage it. And then like after a while people are like, okay, shit is getting serious. We should all just like shut ourselves in the hole and like never come out in like 3 months' time or something. Yeah, it sort of feels like, because yesterday I was in my bed and I just thought of this scenario. I feel like, when it's raining really bad outside and you are walking, or if you're lucky you're in a bus or something. If you're very, very lucky, you would be in a taxi or something, but nonetheless, you're out there and cold and miserable, and it's raining heavily, and you just really want to get home. And then you finally got home, so you settle into your room, you finally got a bit warmer, and you're just, like, very grateful that you don't have to go out again today. But, like, at the same time, the rain is getting heavier and heavier outside, and your house is probably going to leak, and as a matter of fact, it is already leaking. It's not leaked into your bedroom yet, but it might. And you're just, like, worried, and you don't know when you can come out and play again. Probably, I don't know, days, even weeks. You just don't know that. But you are safe at home, but it's just, it doesn't feel that safe because everything else around you is kind of going to hell. So, like, that's how it feels in China right now.
That's still the case in China, that everyone's still locked down. People are... Because we're getting reports that things are starting to... There are green shoots of recovery. People are going to bars again. I mean, are these reports exaggerated? Are people still being very cautious?
Well, so... Take my parents for an example. We are in one of the provinces where it's not that bad. And my mom works in university, so she like goes into office like once a week or something, and most of the time she's just working from home. But my dad has been going to office like every day since like 2 weeks ago or something. So like, but like our province and like our city is not actually that bad in terms of like how many cases we got. In other provinces and cities, at least one province have been discussing resuming school, but like the date is set in like mid-April, so it's not yet. But like they're planning to like resume school, and the national media has been talking about resuming the economy for weeks now. And indeed, like, most restaurants are not fully open, like, back for business. Some are, but, like, people don't... whether people want to go there is another matter. But obviously, like, people are encouraging... Well, government is encouraging people to do that because the economy needs to, get back on its feet. And, So, also, people are talking about, the city of Wuhan, it was, like, completely locked down at pretty much the beginning of the plague, and I think there's been plans to reopen the city next month as well. So it's basically like everything is on demand, and people are slowly getting out, and like the restrictions are getting looser and looser. So yeah, but I haven't been out of the house much because.
But people haven't got the confidence up to yet to sort of fully restart life. They're being cautious about it.
No, not really. But like business are sort of testing the water as well. They're like, okay, we're open.
Yeah.
But like, we are taking all these precautions. So.
Yeah. I think that's because we're interested in where we're going to be. And I mean, how long has it been going on in China since the start of the year? And you're talking maybe the end of April. So that's sort of 4 months. I mean, we're at least, how far are we behind China?
Well,
how far would you estimate that we're behind China?
Yeah, so the thing is, it's very difficult to estimate from the situation in China because when our like lockdown started out, it sort of coincided with the Spring Festival, a time where most people are already at home, like on holiday. So it was sort of like...
It was quite an easy task then. Yeah, it was a good time to do it.
Yeah, like government just tell us, okay, so all your holidays are being prolonged, but you have to stay home. So that was easy.
Whereas in Italy it was in the middle of the skiing season where people were going here and going there and not going to school and going to their holiday home and spreading it here and spreading it there.
Yeah, so like with the outside world, it's basically like the beginning of the spread is probably worse than China. Because in China, it's basically like, I mean, obviously, Spring Festival is not good for the prevention in terms of people traveling across the country to get home. But on the other hand, like once that was done, like the traveling to get home bit was at the very, very start of the curve, where there are like quite small number of cases, and it's mainly clustered in Wuhan. So it was not like contributing that much because the number of infection to start with was small. And then like right after, everyone is just staying at home. So so that was like quite optimum time for this whole quarantine thing to go into effect. Whereas in Europe, it is already spreading and people are continuing business for like, I don't know, almost a month before they're starting to take like full action. So...
It was very disjointed, wasn't it, the European? I mean, all these member states with different priorities and different borders and, different mindsets of how to deal with it. I mean, with China, I suppose it was quite easy. One decision was made and the people stuck to it. It's very difficult to persuade people here to stop going to work and to stop meeting up with their friends, especially young people. That's the biggest challenge for us.
Oh yeah, there has been quite a lot of discussion about how the European countries mainly are dealing with it, and so one of the things that comes up frequently is because how the government and the people's perception of what the government should be responsible for is different. So for China, people are like they're relying on the government to like basically like solve this. And as long as we listen, like everything is going to be fine in the end. Whereas in the West, it's more individualism and like government has limited responsibility. So like that's one of the discussions that's been coming up a lot on the Chinese internet.
Yeah, we've got different vested interests. So you have, it's one decision was made, whereas there's economic decisions here, there's political decisions. It's a tug of war as to what the best policy is. I think we're all a little bit in the dark over that. But the impression in China is that have we handled this poorly?
Well, I gotta say UK is handling this quite well so far. Although might be a bit late in taking every step, but like they're taking the right step, I think. It's like
I think, like I said, it's the attitude of the people towards the government as well. And it's been sort of beneficial that the UK government has gradually increased the restrictions. I think if on one day from no restrictions the Prime Minister came on telly and announced a full lockdown from nothing, the next day there'd be riots in the streets because the British people just don't have that respect for the authority of government, and they simply wouldn't take it, they wouldn't accept it. Whereas I think now, although sadly there are still a lot of people really not listening to the advice, as we've seen especially recently over the
especially
weekend.
in London. Yeah.
I think people are respecting what they're being told and at least starting to take it seriously now.
I think another factor that has not been talked about but a lot, but I personally think is important, is the attitude towards essentially health and life in the Eastern culture versus the Western culture. So, like, if you've lived in China, you would notice there are, like, it's not just China actually, also like Japan and Korea, I guess. You get a lot of like talk about how to stay healthy and to avoid certain things, whereas in the West it's more like if I need to enjoy life, so I need to, like, enjoy these things. I will not restrict, my joys in the life just to live a few months longer or something. Whereas
we're
in
hedonists.
China,
We are. Yeah.
In China, it's a big thing basically to try and essentially nurture your bodies and longevity and all that sort of thing. So people have like a quite a high focus on living a healthy life, I guess. So when the pandemic comes around, this hits right in the soft spots of most Chinese, especially the older generation's nerve, which for this pandemic is a good thing because the vulnerable group are the older generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it induced fear, to sort of look after themselves. Then it was like that's the worst word that you can say in Chinese, is it pandemic? It's like that, just as you say, it cuts to the bone.
I personally feel like this. But of course there are other factors. For example, you say in UK it's the young people that won't stick to the quarantine, whereas in China, when it first started, a lot of young people are trying to persuade their parents to wear face masks. But their parents are like, "No, we're not doing this. We haven't done this. So this is like a new thing. So we will not do this." Like that.
A generational thing, yeah.
Whereas with the young generation, it's like, okay, so we heard wearing face mask is a good thing. We need to adapt quickly. So this is a whole other level of psychology.
Can I just get back to what are you seeing on your news channels at the moment? I mean, are the government pushing for people to get back on with their lives, or are they leaving it up to you, or with the Olympics being cancelled? I mean, a few weeks ago there was a lot of confidence around the Japanese were saying that they were going to, that they were confident the Olympics could go ahead, that we might have a handle on it by then. The fact that that's just been cancelled now is sort of slightly worrying from a European perspective, that they don't think it's going to be fixed in the next couple of months.
Well, you have to understand, I'm not the typical audience of the Chinese government propaganda. So
I understand that, of course, yeah.
So, like, the news I've been watching is mostly Phoenix news these days, which is not exactly government propaganda. I watch BBC and Phoenix more than CCTV, so and also
But just a general sense of the mood in the whole area.
Yeah.
Is there confidence, or is it still stasis?
My main social media network platform is Weibo. So a lot of the times you see some, for example, there's this big conference planned in Guangzhou. I think next month or something, that's just been delayed. And at first, when the news came out that the conference is planned to go ahead, like, everyone was like, no, don't do that. Are you stupid? So, because that conference is like an international conference, so there might be, international import cases, etc., etc. So everyone...
A tech conference, that, is it?
No, I think it's a commercial conference.
Oh, commercial. Yeah. Okay, right. I'd heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting because it's a international commerce conference. So obviously the government would want it to go ahead if not for the concern of pandemic, because we are desperately needing some economy backup right now. And so they plan for it to go ahead. But then the import cases just started to grow in China because people are going back to China
are coming back.
That sort of thing is just kind of worrying right now. So they're delaying this once again. I think right now the official stance is our focus of the whole pandemic control thing is now shifted to preventing import cases from spreading.
But life hasn't restarted then, so that is going to put a
so
further
that
pause
has
on
basically
restarting life.
delayed on restarting life. And also, like, there were many medical personnel going into Wuhan at the start of the pandemic to help them. And like a couple of days ago, they were just like all putting out because like there are essentially no new cases in Wuhan anymore. It's just like remaining cases to be treated. And
they closed the hospital, didn't they?
Yeah.
Those hospitals were closed.
Like there hasn't been new cases for days. There was like one yesterday, but it's also like imported case. So people like it was reported that like all these helps are pulling out, but now they're saying they're staying for a few more days just because they're worried that there might be a resurgence or something. So like
I think we're all looking to the east to see what's ahead of us. Maybe not in terms of the spread of the pandemic, but how do you're going to get back to your life before we get back to our life. And I think it's interesting how that comes about.
We're going to get back to some degree of life, but I don't think like it will be normal like everyday business as before the pandemic, as long as there's still a pandemic in other parts of the world.
Until we have the vaccine, If there's going to be a year of uncertainty, I think, isn't there, even when you feel you can get back to it?
Because there might be imported cases and...
What talk of vaccine in China? Are the Chinese government any closer to developing a vaccine?
I think they are also testing it already. Like, because I remember seeing this news about this essentially high-level medical researcher. Like, there are a few medical researchers that are essentially like leading the whole effort right now, and one of them, coincidentally, is can't remember where she's from, but like she's been both like leading the research and the actual effort, and I think she just like voluntarily became the first test subject of the vaccine that she developed.
Oh, right, did she?
Yeah.
She's a voluntary guinea pig. Wow.
Yeah, and like she also developed the vaccine herself, so like that was the news I saw.
So she's prepared to infect herself and to try and cure herself.
I think she's already injected the thing.
She has already had it, right? Oh my god, that's weird.
Well, I mean, that's what
woman.
Immunologists has been doing like 100 years ago or something, right?
It's quite inspiring, isn't it? It's not something you expect from a modern sort of, scientific professional as, I'll go first.
Well, actually, that's quite common in China. Like, it's been one of the big whole of scientists being sacrificing for the country and the good of the people. It's been a whole
self-sacrifice now. We've had self-isolation, now it's self-sacrifice, is it? You get it first, Callum, right? And then we'll see how you get on. And we'll be right behind you. We'll support you all the way.
Yeah, it's the guinea pig culture, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, can you give us like a sort of timeline of this in China, everybody? So, because for a lot of people in Europe who haven't been tuned into world news and stuff, it seems like this has all popped up over the space of a few weeks, even. But it seems to be going on for a few months in China. So, could you give us a perspective of how it appeared to you from the beginning and up until now?
So right, I think it first started to like become a thing in the news, but like no one really paid much close attention to in December. And by the end of December, I think there has been serious cases and it has become a serious concern, but the government sort of like wanted to keep it like not a great concern for people. So they were like, okay, there has been a new sort of like infectious disease, but it's controllable, and like people need not to worry too much about it. So that was like from, I think, I can't really remember that clearly.
Early January, maybe?
Yeah, that's like from the end of December to early January. That's a sort of like tune. It's been like going on, but like, and at some point, people start to realize this thing is getting serious, and the government can no longer like keep it, that well covered, and they have to admit, okay, this is actually infectious between people to people, but it's still controllable. And it was just like by Spring Festival sort of time when there are like, you know, people talking about you shouldn't go like into certain places, and I can't actually remember when Wuhan locked down.
It must have been around that time, late January, early February.
Yeah, because late January, early February is also Spring Festival. So like January.
Yeah,
the 24th
it wasn't much.
or
It wasn't much after that. It wasn't much. I think it was after the New Year's, but it was just after that. Because I remember thinking that's something that was probably only possible in China, a complete lockdown.
Yeah, so I think I remember when I was at my grandparents, because we were spending a Spring Festival there. And we planned to stay there for like 3 or 4 days or something, but my mom keep pestering for us going back earlier because for fear of our city also got locked down and we can't get back.
Yeah.
Eventually our city didn't lock down, but like that was when like fear of locking down was spreading, like, and people were like, okay, we need to just like shut the door and like dig a hole and like not come out of the house. So that
you were restricted into your house, but the city wasn't locked down.
Well, the thing is,
people were free to come in and out, or there must have been highway checkpoints or something, were there?
Well, it's not like the whole country, every city has the same measure. Obviously, like some provinces and countries are taking it more serious than other places. I think basically what sort of general measure a province takes is like up to the provincial leader, and so if you have like a strong provincial leader, you might have stricter restrictions or like faster action.
Right.
Yeah, and also when it's down to, you know, like countryside and places that are less easily to be regulated, people out of fear might have done something like even more extreme than the governmental restriction. Like I've heard in places people are like blocking up roads and setting up checkpoints themselves to prevent people from other like villages to come in, just because, you know, they don't want any infections in the village. So that
I mean the Irish people are a bit like that at the moment. We're a little bit sort of self-congratulatory, really. We're like, you know, we're staying in. Why look at all these other regions and countries and they're not staying in, and you know, we've sort of, I think Irish people are quite like that as well. We're not that good at maybe being told what to do, but we're sort of, once we make up our mind about something that, well, it's full lockdown, then we almost self-admitted full lockdown for ourselves. You know, everyone I know has just taken to the house. No one went to work the next day. As soon as the lockdown, nobody even tried. Everyone was like, fine, that's me. I'm working from home. You know, we all have good broadband these days. It's being tested more now. But yeah, it just seems to be the general thing. It's like, you know, we quickly went into lockdown. I think that's, maybe certain countries are better at that than others. You know, Callum, maybe as you said, it would the English wouldn't take too kindly to that. Maybe, I don't know. You know. Yeah,
I think if people are just suspicious of another large state begin in the UK and in USA as well.
I think so. Yeah, the nanny state kind of fear, isn't it?
Yeah. People don't want a state dictating what to do. You know,
tough titty at the moment, isn't it? Really, but
yeah. Although the people will complain either way. You know, when
they will, of
if
course,
the government's
they will,
not putting in restrictions, people will say they need to act more, and if they put in more restrictions, they'll call them, you know, fascists and all
that's
alien
it, exactly.
and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
so it's.
But we live in a global world, and I mean, it's been great chatting to you, Emily. It's been fascinating getting our China correspondent. It's great and a fellow Elvis as well on the show. We're getting through all the Elvises, Callum. Yeah. Nepotism is alive and well in the countdown world these days. So, or it just could be so much talent gathered naturally in one group. I don't know.
Was there anything else you wanted to share with us, Emily, or do you think you've covered everything you had to say?
I guess there's one thing I'd like to mention is the whole, you know, the whole xenophobic thing that a couple of world leaders are propelling.
Yeah, we don't buy that. I don't anyway. It's
It's
Trump,
clearly what they're trying to do.
Trump throwing his toys out of the pram, isn't it? Really, he's calling it the Chinese virus. So any of our listeners know we don't subscribe to that. We don't.
Yeah, I just hope people get over this, because if like there are some voices in China as well. Well, there are dickheads everywhere. They're saying look at them now. They're getting more cases than now see who's the winner. Well, I don't think it's when you have more cases that means you lose or what. We all lose. We're all human beings, right? And also there's been people saying okay, it's not China's fault that it started in China, but the Chinese government covered it up first, so that it sort of delayed the response, etc., etc. Well,
it was a natural enough response that I think.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
I mean, there were definitely some covering up going on, but first, overall, the response time is still quicker than most European countries and the US. Even with the whole covering up, it might have saved a bit more lives, but I don't think it's gonna really affect how the virus spreads to the whole world, because that's just how virus works. So it will still be a global pandemic.
Viruses don't respect borders. Yeah.
So I don't think the Chinese government are doing everything right, and they certainly done wrong things, and some of them were still talking about this on the internet, such as at first if they didn't tell the doctors to you shouldn't create fear by wearing face masks and stuff. Some doctors could have had better protection at first, but then that was also when no one knows how this virus is and it's all very easy to see, retrospectively that this is how you could have done it better. But I mean,
I don't think any country would have acted any differently. Every country, I mean, if you just wouldn't. If you're never going to admit that you have it until you're bloody sure, and maybe at that stage they weren't sure, so you're going to say no. Yeah. You're going to say no until you're sure.
And if anyone does have a problem with the actions of the Chinese government, you can still distinguish between that and the Chinese people. So anyone who is being bigoted towards Chinese or Asian people is that's just ridiculous.
We've got no time for them. No. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It's been fascinating.
Yeah, good night, Emily. Thanks very much.
Good night.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye. Cheers. I mean, many people have been affected by the coronavirus, and none so than one of our own members. If we could bring in Mr. Dan McColm. Dan, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Paul.
You're very welcome. How are you feeling?
Not too bad, actually, compared to yesterday. Yesterday was the worst day. I had to call the ambulance because I was really struggling to breathe. And they did some tests, and I'll know pretty soon. But really, I've been feeling quite ill since Monday.
Yeah.
And
what happened when the ambulance arrived yesterday? And what happened? Did they wouldn't take you in? They're too busy. So what did they say to you?
They said they're only taking people in who are really in critical condition because the hospitals are close to capacity. And actually some hospitals in London are full already, they can't take new people in.
And what part of London are you living in?
So I'm living in Holloway, which is North London.
And this has been unfortunate. And you think some of your flatmates have it as well? Or are they okay? Or
Well, if I do, then they do, because we share the same space, and we talk to each other every day, so
you're isolating as much as possible from each other, I imagine.
From each other, we're trying to just keep ourselves to ourselves.
Yeah,
and how long does that go on for? You have a full 2 weeks ahead of you then, another 2 weeks.
Well, it's 2 weeks from the day that you first started showing symptoms, which for me was last Monday, so I've got another week.
You've got another week. And you think it peaked yesterday in terms of how you were feeling? You had a bad night last night.
Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I had quite a bad fever. Thursday, Friday, the fever went, but I was coughing quite a lot. And then, yesterday was the peak. I felt so ill.
And how do you think you acquired it? Was this out in London city centre?
No, it was from my work. The guy I sat next to in the office has since tested positive, so I probably got it from him.
Okay, and have you been in contact with him? Do you know how he's feeling, or was he a friend?
I wouldn't say friend, but a colleague, and we got on well enough at work, but didn't really interact outside of work. But yeah, he was really bad. He actually did get taken into hospital, but he's over the worst of it now.
Okay, that's good.
Right.
Yeah. And have you been tested yourself, Dan?
I have been tested, yeah. They did a swab of my nose and throat, and I'll know within the next day or two. But I'm pretty sure I did have it.
So how does the testing process work then? Because I don't think many people have heard the details of exactly how that goes down.
Yeah, they just stick something in your nose and down your throat and take a sample.
Right.
And then that gets sent off to a lab, and then they tell you the answer, do you have it or not.
Where's the testing done? Do you have to go into a hospital, or...?
So they're only testing people in hospital, or if the paramedics get sent round, then someone's house, and they can do a test there. But they're not testing as much as they should be.
I think there's a
and with the paramedics in full hazmat suits, then they were suited and booted as they were coming to see you.
Yeah, they had to change their clothes, so they're in full protective gear, with masks on. They made me put a mask on as well.
It must have been a little bit surreal. I mean, and I know you were feeling very ill, but did that come through, the surreality of the whole situation?
Yeah, it felt like something out of Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's very sci-fi, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean this whole situation just feels like something out of a film.
28 Days Later, isn't that the one?
Yeah.
It's not the one where you have London deserted. It is a very fast-moving scenario. I mean, Dan, you've been very badly affected by this whole thing. I mean, if you want to tell us, you lost your job over this.
I did, yeah. So basically, what I did for a living was write algorithms to trade sport in play, and obviously the sport all got cancelled, so they made quite a lot of us redundant. And the people that they did keep on basically were offered unpaid leave until the sport comes back, or redundancy.
And you weren't even offered that? They just said, we don't need your services right now because you're not frontline. You're behind the scenes with all the algorithms and the what was how did the conversation go? I mean, were they nice about it? Were they callous about it?
No, they weren't callous. So I got an email on Monday saying we need to come. You need to come in and speak to us about the future of the company. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I know where this is going. But yeah, they just explained that because this all the sport being cancelled had such a massive impact. I mean, that's our only source of income gone. So they just said it's nothing personal, but we have to make your position redundant.
And how many of you were let go?
Oh, so the company was 30 people, and I'd say 10 people were let go, and more than that offered unpaid leave or redundancy.
So they maybe kept about a third of their staff, really, then?
Yeah, well, the tennis...
Probably let two, yeah.
The tennis is coming back, at the earliest in June, so, would you want to work unpaid for 3 months? Probably not. You couldn't afford to, could you?
No, not work.
Yeah.
Well, and there was no offer of just gardening leave, just to say whether we would keep you on the bench, kind of thing, like a lot of companies would do, just to where we can retain your services when things pick up again.
No, because they couldn't afford to pay us for the whole time we're off, because we've got no income for that period. So
no. Have any of the financial measures introduced by the government helped you at all?
Well, yeah, so it was announced on Friday that the government's going to pay 80% of people's wages if they were affected by coronavirus. The way that works is the company has to apply for that money, and then they pay the employees. My work is going to apply for that money, and they said if they get it, then they're just going to pretend like I didn't get made redundant, and they're going to continue to pay me.
Right.
That's what I mean, because I remember reading that, and it said it was basically a sort of an incentive to retain folk, to not make them redundant
that's
now.
Exactly what it
to
was,
keep them on. This is to keep them on your staff. The fact that they let you go, I mean, they jumped the gun.
Well, yeah, but it applies to people that were recently let go as well. So if you were employed on the 28th of February, then that money, you're eligible for that money, basically. So I would be okay.
Yeah, the Chancellor said when he announced it that it was the purpose of it was to prevent companies from letting staff go and rather keep them on, and that it was backdated to the 1st of March. So yeah, hopefully you'll be able to get 80% of your wage from that, Dan. We're certainly rooting for you.
Yeah, we do. That would make a big difference, I imagine. In terms of your rent, what's your landlord saying? Have you spoken to your landlord? I mean, you live in London, one of the most expensive cities to rent in the world. What's your landlord saying about all this?
Well, my landlord can barely speak English, so I might as well talk to a brick wall than talk to him. But
he knows the situation, does he? I mean, there's penalties now, aren't there, for evictions, or there's a sort of moratorium on evictions?
Yeah, so landlords aren't allowed to evict tenants anymore. But the thing is, that's all well and good, but you're still building up debt if you can't pay rent. So I'd be in a bit of a bad position. But hopefully this 80% money comes through, because if it does, I can still pay my rent.
Yeah.
They said
what we're being told here is that they're hoping that landlords don't look for this back date, don't look to get it back at some point. That the landlords take the hit, take as much of a hit as your tenants are going to take. You know, if they're suffering, give them a break.
Well,
I think that's the reasons we're going to get through this is people having to be charitable and go, you're grand, I get that you don't have the rent this month again. Yeah. That's fine, we'll work something out. I'm not going to kick you out. I know even when the 3-month period is up.
Well,
that is true, but obviously landlords are people as well, and they also have expenses to cover, and they could have been affected by this as well. I know, obviously, on average, I'm sure your average landlord is a lot better off than your average tenant, but that's, a lot of...
You would imagine so.
A lot of landlords will...
You would, especially in London.
Yes, but a lot of landlords will depend on that tenancy income themselves, so it's all well and good saying the landlord, should just be charitable with their income, but they might not be able to afford to be. They need to live.
No, I get that. I do get that. I mean, we have kids in creche, and where we could very easily we have prepaid for their creche, and we could very easily go and look for that money back now. But if every parent did that, there wouldn't be a creche to send them to when things get back.
Yeah. Well, I think my thoughts on landlords are probably unbroadcastable for this podcast. But no, people who own property are being offered 3-month mortgage holiday, so they don't have to pay anything for 3 months.
Yeah.
So hopefully, that should get passed down to the tenant as well, because the home is costing the landlord nothing for 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just reading yesterday about a tenant. Like, basically, the landlord wanted to let someone in for an inspection, and he said, I've got symptoms of coronavirus, so no, you can't. And then the landlord said, well, tough luck, you don't have to self-isolate in your property. You can just go to your parents or whatever. Tried to kick him out of his own flat, just so a viewing could happen.
Jesus. I'd say don't touch the handle, mate. It's all over the handle.
Yeah. But yeah, because it went viral on Twitter, they retracted it basically and offered him compensation. But if it hadn't gone viral, then who knows what would have happened?
We're going to have a changed world. Is the world going to be changed for the better, or is it going to be changed for the worse, or is it going to be a little bit of both? I mean, are people going to be more compassionate, or are they going to be a little bit more standoffish, and are they going to come out their door and look at other people as walking germs?
And I think this corona is making people realise that health is public, because it's not just you that is affected, because you can give coronavirus to other people as well. So we need a solution that is public, I think. And I think our asses will be cleaner as well with all this bog roll.
Yeah, yeah. The hygiene stuff that's been recommended, that hopefully that will have a legacy, because people think it's excessive.
Got a really clean bum,
intrusive,
yeah.
but all the hygiene stuff that's being recommended is just the stuff that we should all be doing all the time anyway. It's not an extra measure. It's like, yeah, this is what everyone should do all the time anyway, but no one actually does.
I mean, yeah.
So now you really need to
We
start
should have been doing for years, yeah, we should. We're just blokes and slobs. We're all men here, and as men, we've grown up with the knowledge that we sort of don't even have to be as hygienic as women.
I mean,
you
yeah.
know, we're blokes. We're allowed to pick our nose, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And not wash your hands when you go to the toilet.
It has made me think how little I used to wash my hands. So even after Geetoning, I wouldn't wash them.
That can only be a good thing.
I think I'd always wash my hands a lot and stuff, but it does make you conscious of things like the whole "don't touch your face" thing, and everyone's
Especially after
really
Geetoning,
becoming
yeah,
conscious
especially.
of just how difficult that is to do, because it's a subconscious reaction.
Yeah.
And you do it without noticing, yeah.
But we like to give people hope. I mean, we're all sitting in our houses going, when are we ever going to be able to do this or that? And you know, I have my mate who lives 100 meters round the road, and he can't come around and play bass at the moment because just because of all this. And he's not sick, and I'm not sick.
Hopefully, yeah.
There's going to come a point where either I'll be around at his house or he'll be around at my house, but that point is going to come. And I'm sure you all have your own examples of that, where it's just those little things. We're not asking to go to a concert, not asking to go to Cheltenham, but those little things.
Hope you stay well, Dan, and keep in touch with us.
Thank you very much.
And we'll definitely have you back on the podcast at some point in future to discuss happier topics. You know, you've certainly got a very interesting countdown history to discuss. Absolutely, yeah. So we'll have you back on, Dan, in the normal times to have a much.
He's a countdown legend,
positive.
yes.
Yeah, thank you. Looking forward to that very much.
I hope the listeners have enjoyed being informed by the members of the Countdown community and their direct experiences with COVID-19. I hope you're not too... It is informed, yeah. Informed but reassured. I hope no one's feeling too anxious. Life will get back to normal. We're going to have to be clever in how we entertain ourselves and maybe find new means of employment and try and bring our businesses online. Try and bring our entertainment online. It seems to be that's the natural space for things to occur at the moment. The only safe space.
People are adapting quickly. Like on Saturday, I was watching the wedding of Tom Kappelman and I guess his wife now. They were planning to do it about a month later in April, but then decided to move it forward while they still could because of Corona. They had about 10 people in the church. But it was, quite a big room, and you could tell it was a lot emptier than it perhaps should be. But there were so many people on the live stream, and they had like an online photo album where loads of people from around the world were sharing photos of them watching the stream and that. And you could really tell from like the chats and everything that it felt like it was a full room in attendance, even if it was such a small thing. And it still had all the magic of like a more standard wedding, and I think it was a really good thing for everyone involved.
Well, congratulations to Thomas and Ruth from all the members of the Countdown community. But it's been fascinating. I've really enjoyed the talk. It's been good talking to Mouse and to Dan and to Emily earlier, and we hope everyone stays calm, does as they're told. Doesn't go and visit Granny. Stay well away from Granny. Keep your germs. Assume you have it is always the best policy. Assume you are a carrier, and act accordingly. I hope everyone's got enough food in. They're not spending too much money. Living quite frugally. I suppose they're not buying concert tickets and things like that anymore. But we're probably eating a lot more than we should, and we're drinking a lot more than we should.
I think a lot of us are going to come out of this experience a lot fatter. Some of us are going to come out alcoholics. It's crazy. I think we will tell our grandkids about this, where we are living through history, and it's let's hope it doesn't go too long. We'll be back next month, I imagine. Will we? We'll be back with our normal podcast.
Yeah, well,
if things change, I imagine we'll do another special.
Yeah, well, we'll just speak to whoever's available to speak to about whatever they want to speak to. You know, as usual, if any of our listeners have any feedback or anything they want to hear, anyone they want to hear, let us know, and we'll do our best to make it happen.
They're probably free right now, so it's easier for us to get our guests, isn't it? They're not as busy as they once were. We're not sure who we have yet. We had a list, but that list has been sort of torn up. So we'll thank Emily and we'll thank George earlier, and we'll thank you, Dan and Mouse.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so that was our fourth and final guest for this episode. It was quite packed. We had plenty of people on. I hope you enjoyed the extra content of this episode. We'll be back with episode 5, hopefully sometime before the end of April. We can't tell you yet exactly who we're going to have on.
It's a
Things
secret.
haven't been finalised. Yeah,
we don't even know.
Yeah, doubtless there'll probably still be some current event related discussion to be had, but we'll make sure there's something in there for everyone. So yeah, hope you enjoyed listening on our new home on YouTube. As always, if you have any feedback, please get in touch with us. Contact me and Paul through the usual routes, or send an email to vocaltalkpodcast@gmail.com, or you can get in touch via the YouTube comments and messaging systems now. So yeah, thanks very much for listening, and please stay safe, be responsible, look after yourselves, and we shall see you in April.
Yeah, see you next month, guys. Bye-bye.